Chapter 1541. First step, circulate soul energy. Second step, condense soul energy. Third step, fourth step, release soul energy, melt the dragon blood, and merge the two. After thinking for a long time, this was Xiao Chen's fourth attempt. This time, he took the risk of carrying out the third and fourth steps at the same time. This was the only way to completely merge the dragon blood and soul energy. As Xiao Chen's cultivation was insufficient, he could only forcefully cultivate it. Naturally, a cultivator of a higher cultivation realm would follow the normal order, which was safe and stable. However, Xiao Chen needed to use some unconventional methods. Otherwise, he would never succeed if he followed the normal order. The drop of dragon blood in Xiao Chen's heart melted, and the condensed soul energy entered his right index finger at the same time. His soul energy and dragon blood merged continuously during this process. A strong aura burst out from Xiao Chen's body. Success or failure depended on this. Dragon blood soul-breaking finger. Xiao Chen roared, and a scarlet light lit up the space on his right index finger. The blood-red light beam shot out for a full 10,000 meters without dispersing. Success! Xiao Chen revealed a smile, rejoicing in his heart. He finally succeeded on his fourth attempt. By carrying out the third and fourth steps at the same time, he had made the right gamble by taking the risk. When the scarlet light faded, fatigue washed over Xiao Chen, and he slowly calmed down. Perhaps this was not enough. After all, the blood-soaked dragon emperor had not seen the demonic god personally. Furthermore, what if this dragon blood soul-breaking finger could not completely kill the demonic god? He really couldn't afford to lose, Just this dragon blood soul-breaking finger is not enough. I have to think of other ways to raise the purple thunder divine incantation to the 10th layer. My thunder domain should not be much weaker than the Thunder King's. However, the Thunder King's thunder domain has already mutated. As Xiao Chen thought, an idea suddenly came to his mind. Although my ice domain is not as strong as the thunder domain, it is close. If I can merge the two, I will have another asset to deal with him. What kind of medium would the fusion of ice and lightning take? Naturally, the first thing that came to Xiao Chen's mind was the saber. He was the most familiar with the saber. However, he already grasped a complete Dao for saber intent, which was one level higher than a domain. Merging the three was somewhat difficult. Other than sabers, I'm most familiar with dragons. That's right, that's it. Xiao Chen's eyes flashed. He had the bloodline of the blue dragon and had seen all kinds of dragons. It was the perfect vessel. Opening his palm, streams of lightning energy emerged from his palm, crackling and flickering non-stop. Then, with a thought, the power of ice appeared in his palm at the same time, and the two continuously mixed together. Under Xiao Chen's gaze, it quickly took the shape of a dragon, becoming more and more exquisite. The blood-soaked dragon emperor said that my dragon blood is a huge treasure. However, I still do not know how to use it. But just now, the dragon blood soul-breaking finger had fused with the power of the dragon blood soul-breaking finger. Only then could it be called the true soul-breaking finger. Could the Thunderbolt Ice Dragon be infused with a trace of dragon blood? Thinking of this, Xiao Chen took action. A drop of scarlet dragon blood seeped out of his palm, which was covered in ice and lightning. Like an extremely gluttonous child, the Thunderbolt Ice Dragon instantly absorbed this drop of dragon blood and turned into a berserk tricolor dragon. The purple of lightning, the white of ice, and the red of blood. As the thunder domain and ice domain's energies drained, the berserk tricolor dragon in Xiao Chen's hand grew larger and longer. When Xiao Chen's energy of lightning and ice was completely drained, a 10-meter-long berserk tricolor dragon soared out of his palm. Its main body was purple lightning, and white ice covered its scales. Blood dotted its claws and horns. I succeeded. I will call you the Ice Blood Lightning Dragon, then. Xiao Chen clenched his fist, and the berserk tricolor dragon vanished. Heavy confidence flashed in his eyes. He had gained another killing move. Furthermore, with the strengthening of his physical body and vital qi, his strength had undergone a complete transformation. He was now 50% confident of dealing with the demonic god that the Thunder King possessed. Xiaochen raised his head and looked at the demonic clouds in the sky. He muttered, "If I can break the demonic clouds and allow the isolated heavenly Tao to reappear, the demonic god's strength will decrease significantly. 50% will become 70%. Whoosh! With a thought, Xiaochen arrived under the demonic clouds. After hesitating for a while, he entered. When Xiaochen entered the demonic clouds, all sorts of negative emotions immediately surged over. This was an extremely terrifying mental attack. However, to the current Xiaochen, this was not too much trouble. He just had to guard his heart. Xiaochen flew higher and higher. After flying for 10 kilometers, he still had not emerged from the demonic clouds. This startled him greatly. No wonder it could isolate the heavenly Tao. The thickness of these demonic clouds was simply incredible. Blue Dragon Divine Wings. A pair of dragon wings spread out on Xiaochen's back, and he suddenly accelerated. Then, he leaped out of the demonic clouds. Rumble. The long-awaited sunlight appeared. Before Xiaochen could reminisce about it, bolts of lightning shot towards him. After Xiaochen dodged, he quickly withdrew his aura. Right now, his strength was already on the verge of being killed by the heavenly Tao. More accurately, Xiaochen had already broken through, hovering around the limit. However, Xiaochen was a cultivator who grew up in the Kunlun realm. The heavenly Tao was more tolerant of him. As expected, there is a clear gap between us. Beneath the demonic clouds, I can be unbridled. But outside the demonic clouds, I have to be cautious. If I am not careful, I will touch the red line of the heavenly Tao. A calm expression appeared on Xiaochen's face. However, compared to the demon god, he is still the one at a disadvantage. Without the demonic clouds, his strength will decrease by at least 2 to 3 times. As for me, it will only decrease by 20% at most. Xiaochen still vividly remembered the sorry state he had been in when he fought with the demon god, even though he had used Dharma World. Even after using all sorts of means, he was still unable to receive Xiaochen's attacks. Every punch was excruciatingly painful, and Xiaochen's defeat was extremely miserable. After executing his heavenly eye, Xiaochen could barely see through the clouds and see the blurry terrain of the Kunlun realm. After a quarter of an hour, he arrived above the mysterious domain and stopped. He looked at the demonic clouds thoughtfully. How could he break it and let the heavenly Tao penetrate it, disintegrating the demonic clouds of the entire Kunlun realm? As long as there was a hole in the 500-kilometer-long dike, the flood would immediately destroy it. However, the might of the heavenly Tao was much more ferocious than the flood. Once Xiaochen had a chance, he would definitely disintegrate the demonic clouds above the Kunlun realm. To pierce through the 10-kilometer-thick demonic clouds, aside from having great might, one's penetrative power had to be strong. Otherwise, Xiaochen would not be able to pierce through them. The demonic clouds would quickly close up, and the demon god would notice Xiaochen's existence, not giving him another chance to attack. There was only one chance. His attack had to be ferocious, and its penetrative power had to be strong. Standing in the demonic clouds, Xiaochen grabbed a clump of demonic clouds. Then, he opened his palm and looked at it carefully. The black demonic clouds in Xiaochen's palm changed continuously. Unexpectedly, they turned into many evil spirits' heads. All of them had malevolent expressions, looking extremely horrifying. Xiaochen's heart sank. Just a clump of demonic clouds already had so many evil spirits. For tens of thousands of years, how many innocent lives had the demonic god blood sacrifice killed? This method was simply too cruel. After calming down, Xiaochen analyzed the situation. The demonic clouds were mainly made up of all sorts of resentful spirits and demonic qi. It seemed like Xiaochen's strength attribute was not very useful against such existences. It would be great if he had an attribute like the state of holy light. I can only use brute force. With the support of the Tao might and the saber Tao's great Tao energy and 2 cauldron force, that should be enough. After taking a deep breath, a Tao disc appeared behind Xiaochen. Then, it condensed into a point and continuously elongated. When it elongated to 3 centimeters, Xiaochen punched ferociously. 2 cauldron force gathered on his fist light. With the support of the Tao might, the berserk energy became incredibly dense. 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, the saber light that the fist light turned into continuously pierced through the demonic clouds. Xiaochen was very confident in his attack. Before the demonic clouds were completely pierced through, Xiaochen leaped out of the opening. Chapter 1542. Kunlun Mountain was the final trump card of the Kunlun realm, the 10,000-year-old demonic corpse. In the end, it still fell to the demonic god. No matter how strong the demonic corpse's physical body was, it would eventually run out of strength. Its injuries piled up. In the end, it would explode into a pool of black blood. As for the demonic god, he was innately undefeatable. No matter how badly his body was damaged, he would recover in an extremely short time. Furthermore, the demonic god was terrifyingly strong. With one punch, he could easily knock back a prime. No one could block the demonic god's repeated attacks. Just look at how strong Xiaochen was earlier. However, he did not last long against the demonic god. Not to mention Ing Zongtian, Emperor Forsaken, and the Fox King. It's over. Seeing the final 10,000-year-old demonic corpse explode into a pool of blood, all the Kunlun realm cultivators sighed in their hearts. Qitian, there is no need for you to struggle. The Earth Demon Monarch and the other demonic world primes stopped their attacks. Their anxious hearts finally released their bated breath. After this, there was no need for them to make a move. The demonic god alone was sufficient to destroy 7 primes. Emperor Forsaken, Ing Zongtian, and the others remained silent. At this final moment, they did not feel fear or despair but pity. Pity that they could no longer see these great mountains and rivers. Pity that they would no longer have the chance to fight alongside their fellow Taoists. Ing Zongtian, I'm sorry. I have never apologized in my life. I believe that if I do not apologize now, there might not be another chance, Emperor Forsaken said indifferently. The heaven-abandoning deity sovereign said indifferently. His expression was somewhat sorrowful and somewhat helpless. He also felt some regret. If he had not been so utilitarian in the past, the entire Kunlun realm would not have lost so much of its high-end combat power when Xiaochen advanced to martial emperor. In this battle, there might have been a chance to protect the Kunlun realm. Although the demonic god was strong, if the demonic god killed all the other cultivators and demonic beasts of the demonic world, he alone would not be able to truly occupy the Kunlun realm. Ing Zongtian smiled and said, "All right, I forgive you. I have never forgiven anyone who has made a big mistake in my life. Before I die, I won't let you have this regret." The few remaining Kunlun Supremes stood side by side, prepared to withstand the last wave of attack from the demonic god. Shui Lingling was a little tired. Standing on the mystic bird, the primordial energy in her body was almost exhausted, and her spirit was even more fatigued. Is it about to end? And Juanshi leaned against a mountain rock. He truly had no strength to continue fighting. He needed to rest, and his injuries also needed to recover. Feng Xingsheng, Xianyuan Zhantian, Mo Chen, and the other Dragon's Gate cultivators all showed helplessness and dissatisfaction in their eyes. At this moment, it was as though the entire Kunlun realm was sighing. Qitian, you thought that you fought against me your entire life. However, from the very beginning, you've only been toyed with by me. Thousands of faces squeezed together under the demonic god's skin, changing continuously. Finally, they turned into the Thunder King's face. Qitian said coldly, "Thunder King, if you want to make a move, do it quickly. Look at your current appearance, you look neither human nor ghost. You probably won't be able to die even if you wanted to." Humph. A dead person is not qualified to mock me. Hu Qi. Just at this moment, an intense beam of light suddenly descended from the sky. In reality, it was not that the light was very intense. It was just that the demonic clouds had covered the world for too long, preventing people from seeing sunlight for too long. Hence, the light was so piercing and intense. Light? These demonic clouds are 10 kilometers thick. Even I cannot pierce through them in one breath. Who did it? Ing Zongtian exclaimed in shock as he raised his head. That intense beam of light in the boundless darkness immediately attracted everyone's attention. The moment the light beam fell, a white figure slowly descended from the pillar of light. It's Big Brother Shao Chen. It's Shao Chen. It's the white-robed bladesman, Shao Chen. The Blue Dragon King is back. Those with good eyesight immediately saw the white-clad person's appearance and could not help exclaiming. The heavenly Tao is back. I can feel it. Emperor Forsaken, who had already accepted death, suddenly became excited. The Thunder King revealed a horrified expression. How can this be? He was so severely injured. How did he recover in such a short time? The demonic god could no longer care about killing Emperor Forsaken. Its huge body shrank continuously. The demonic god did not release its demonic might, fearing that the heavenly Tao would kill it. Hence, it had no choice but to take the initiative to scatter its cultivation. The beam of light continued to expand. By the time Shao Chen landed, the entire profound domain had recovered. The demonic clouds were like heavy snow in winter, continuously melting under the radiance of the sun. The demonic clouds covering the entire Kunlun realm vanished at an extremely fast pace. Just like how justice would definitely prevail over evil, darkness would not cover the land forever. As long as someone dared to stand out and poke a hole, the light of the heavenly Tao would spread over the land. How painful! How piercing! My strength is gone. So tired, so sleepy. I don't have any strength left. What's going on? Why did I suddenly age so much? Why? Why did my old injuries relapse? Countless demonic world cultivators and demonic beasts were horrified to discover that all sorts of terrifying problems had appeared around them. Several demons even started crying in despair. Earlier, they had been full of energy and strong bodies. Now, their hair had turned white, and their bodies were riddled with injuries. No one would be able to accept this. Draining one's life force to heal one's injuries and strengthen one's combat prowess, the side effects would arrive sooner or later. By poking a hole in the sky and weakening the demonic god's strength, Shao Chen had only brought this moment forward. Saber. Shao Chen stretched out his hand, and the scattered lunar shadow saber on the battlefield turned into a beam of light and returned to his hand. The absence of Ao Jiao in the saber stunned Shao Chen for a moment. However, he could sense that Ao Jiao was still alive, so Shao Chen let go of this worry. Holding the saber horizontally in his hand, Shao Chen sent out a saber light. A tyrannical aura that looked down on the world erupted from his body. The saber light swept out in all directions. All the demons and demonic beasts within 50 kilometers of Shao Chen were struck by the azure light. Dark Church's Church Master, do you dare to fight me again? The saber light on Shao Chen's saber flickered as he pointed it at the Dark Church's Church Master. A strong aura spread out from Shao Chen's body, giving the impression that he was a powerful saber sovereign, ruling the world, unrivaled in all directions. Defeated opponent, this time, the heavenly Tao is not isolated. Those old monsters of the Blue Dragon Palace will not dare to come and save you. I will make sure you die thoroughly. The Dark Church's Church Master returned to the height of a regular person. He held back his overwhelming demonic might. With a gentle leap, he arrived before Shao Chen, not showing any fear. At this moment, the thousands of demonic world cultivators and demonic beasts fell into chaos. The cultivators and demonic beasts that had already charged up the mountain all retreated in a fluster. The state of their bodies suddenly plummeted from their peak to rock bottom, accompanied by all sorts of pain. The side effects of overdrawing on their potential erupted. They were now even weaker than regular people, like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. The Kunlun realm's war banner rose up behind Xiaochen once more, fluttering loudly in the strong wind. The war banner did not fall. It was like a blazing fire, igniting the hot-bloodedness in everyone's hearts, turning it into a blazing flame. We cannot let them leave so easily. Rage burned in Juanqi's eyes. His entire body was drained of energy. However, he gritted his teeth and stood up in the end, trembling. The many fatigued Kunlun realm cultivators gritted their teeth and stood up. They tightly gripped their weapons and charged out with their final breaths. Although they were injured and fatigued, they had not overdrawn on their potential. They did not have the side effects of the demons. Before the Kunlun realm cultivators, the demons did not have any combat prowess at all. They fled in panic, utterly defeated. Miserable cries rang out at every moment. Those were the miserable cries of the demons. Good and evil would be repaid. It was not that there was no retribution, it was just that the time had not come yet. After massacring so many people of the Kunlun realm, it was time for them to pay their debts. As Xiaochen listened to the miserable cries, his expression did not change at all. He looked at the demonic god coldly and said, "This is their retribution. Soon, it will be your turn." Humph. Do you think that you can kill me by letting the might of the heavenly Tao descend again? Let me tell you, I will not die. As long as I am around, this war will not end. The Thunder King's eyes turned somewhat crazed. As he looked at Xiaochen, he hated him so much that his eyeballs nearly popped out of their sockets. He was just one step away from killing all the Kunlun realm primes and obtaining the Rock of Origin. However, Xiaochen's reappearance shattered this beautiful dream. The situation of the battlefield also reversed. You little bastard, you are even more loathsome than the Qing Emperor. If not for the fact that I had no choice, why would I nurture a tiger and invite disaster? However, since you do not treasure it, I will not show mercy either. Die. The demonic god leaped into the air and punched. Overwhelming demonic might erupted intensely on his fist light. That strong demonic might could knock back a prime with just demonic might. Show mercy. You'd best use your full power. Otherwise, you will die very quickly. Xiaochen casually swung his saber, not showing any fear of the other party. He met force with force, not dodging at all. Dang! The fist light and the saber clashed, producing a loud clang. The two each moved back 100 steps, evenly matched. Blood leaked out of a corner of Xiaochen's lips. Then, he held his saber with both hands and looked at the other party coldly. The Thunder King, the demonic god, felt stunned. However, when he saw the blood on Xiaochen's lips, he smiled and said, "What a surprise. You became so strong. Unfortunately, I am immortal. However, your flesh is your greatest weakness." Amid loud laughter, black sparks flew out of the Thunder King's fingers. With every step the demonic god took, a black lotus flower appeared under his feet. As the lotus flowers drifted in the air, the demonic god executed Thunder Hell. This time, the Thunder Hell was even stronger than the one the Thunder King executed. Flawless saber technique, heaven-swallowing stance. As Xiaochen swung his saber, countless mysterious phenomena shot out of his body. There was a bright moon, snowflakes, a lightning dragon, a blazing sun, and boundless saber lights. Xiaochen poured out all his comprehensions, eventually turning into a huge dragon head. The dragon head opened its huge mouth and sucked in all the lotus flowers, black lightning, and all the negative emotions. What martial technique is this? The Thunder King was startled. His Thunder Hell and the lotus flower mysterious phenomena were all gone. I'll return them to you. Xiaochen shouted, and the saber in his hand spun around, sending out a pure black saber light spreading lightning and negative emotions. Pu Ci. Xiaochen vomited a mouthful of black blood. The saber light formed by his Thunder Hell chopped off half of the Thunder King's body. Although his body continuously recovered, the Thunder King felt an unprecedented worry when he saw Xiaochen's eyes. The Thunder King saw strong confidence in Xiao Chen's eyes and a hatred that even the sky and the sea could not contain. Chapter 1543. It looks like I have to get serious with you. Xiao Chen, you are stronger than I thought. The Thunder King's body quickly recovered. Then, he waved his right hand, and a huge axe suddenly appeared in his grasp. Xiao Chen's eyelids twitched slightly. This huge axe was also a transcendent divine weapon. During the king conferral ceremony, the other party had used this axe when he fought the heaven-abandoning fist. The past truly made one sigh. Suddenly, a thought occurred to Xiao Chen. Earlier, the other party said that he regretted nurturing a tiger. Could it be that there was some hidden trouble? However, this thought disappeared in a flash, because the demonic god that the Thunder King possessed had already charged over. The demonic god wielding a weapon did not change its aura much, but it could let go of its arrogance. It no longer fought in a simple and crude manner. Instead, it played combat techniques with Xiao Chen, which posed a greater threat to Xiao Chen. In terms of combat experience, who could compare to the Thunder King, who had lived for more than 10,000 years? Perhaps the only thing that Xiao Chen could rely on was his sharpness and his ultimate killing move. Dang! 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 The huge axe clashed with the saber. The two started an intense battle in the profound domain. The Thunder King had plenty of combat experience. However, Xiao Chen's saber techniques were not weak either. Soon, the two fought for real, becoming increasingly ferocious. The two fought a frenzied battle, accompanied by the miserable cries of the demon race cultivators. As time went by, demon race cultivators fell in large numbers on the battlefield. The demonic world primes held on bitterly, placing all their hopes on the demonic god. They only hoped that the demonic god could turn the tide and kill Xiao Chen before turning the situation around. Aside from focusing on the Thunder King, Xiao Chen also split off a portion of his attention to observe the fight between Ing Zongtian and the other primes. The primes mostly held the upper hand in their fight. Only the Kunlun Palace's palace master fought against Xing Wang and Fa Wang alone, appearing perilous. Xiao Chen found an opening and suddenly executed the Divine Lightning Eye. Xing Wang, who was currently fighting with the Kunlun Palace's palace master, did not react at all. 3 lightning tribulations layered over each other and landed on him. Xiao Chen, who had just experienced a lightning tribulation, gained a new understanding of lightning tribulations. The 3 lightning tribulations merged together and formed a statue of a deity made of lightning. Then, it came crashing down. Puchi. Severely injured, Kingly Punisher was unable to dodge at all. He coughed up a large mouthful of blood and collapsed. How could the Kunlun Palace's palace master let go of such a good opportunity? He swung his saber and chopped Xing Wang in half. After finishing off one, the pressure on the Kunlun Palace's palace master immediately decreased significantly. In a one-on-one fight, even Xing Wang and Fa Wang would not be a match for him. You dare to be distracted while fighting me? Xiao Chen, you're really arrogant. With a sneer, the Thunder King swung his axe down. Boundless thunder roared in the sky. A bolt of lightning tore through the sky and was pulled down by the giant axe. Black lightning descended from the clouds and spread to the giant axe, causing the speed of the axe to suddenly increase by several times. Dang! Xiao Chen, who blocked this axe with his saber, was knocked back 1 kilometer before he managed to stand stably. This is just the beginning. Xiao Chen, let's see how long you can last. Even if I fight for half a year, I will not be able to exhaust my demonic energy. What about you? 3 days? 2 days? Or even 1 day? As the Thunder King held the giant axe, his words dealt a blow to Xiao Chen's confidence, breaking down Xiao Chen's fighting spirit. I don't need that long to kill you. At most, half a day. Xiao Chen did not get angry or happy. His figure flashed, and he took the initiative to charge over. Xiao Chen needed to find an opportunity. As long as he could find one, he would execute all his killing moves and then combine them with his sure kill move to kill the other party. During this period, he could not give the other party any chance to catch his breath. Thunder Purgatory. After fighting for half a day, the Thunder King roared ferociously and used the same move. He did not believe that Shao Qin could break his domain this time. Black lotus flowers floated in the air once more, each one as heavy as a mountain. They contained extremely compressed demonic chi and flickered with black sparks. They could turn into sharp killing blades at any moment, catching one off guard. Whoosh! 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 Countless lotus flowers spun around, flying at Shao Chen in an airtight formation. Fish dragon art, like a fish in water, thousands of changes. In an instant, Shao Chen's feet moved about within an inch of space, moving thousands of times, creating countless human figures and saber lights. Some of the black lotus flowers were dodged by Shao Chen, while others were shattered by the saber. One Bodhi leaf, one world, one flower. The Thunder King formed hand seals with one hand, and the situation changed again. Every lotus flower that Shao Chen shattered turned into countless lotus flowers again. Caught off guard, the afterimages that Shao Chen created shattered one by one. Unable to dodge, his true body got struck by several lotus flowers. It was as if he had been struck by several mountains, and the huge impact sent him flying. The lotus flowers exploded, and countless strands of demonic chi and lightning ran amok in Shao Chen's body. The situation suddenly turned grim. Now was the time to kill in one strike. The Thunder King saw an opportunity. His eyes suddenly turned sharp, and he gave up on his plan to fight steadily, becoming more aggressive. Aside from frustration, the main reason was that the demonic world's demon monarchs were being killed one by one. The situation was becoming increasingly disadvantageous to Shao Chen. If he waited for those supreme beings to free themselves and attack him together, it was very likely that he would be tortured to death. Even if Shao Chen did not die, he would have to flee to the demonic world and recuperate. It's coming. Shao Chen's heart sank, feeling somewhat nervous. This time, the other party went all out and finally revealed an opening. Sharp Spirit Finger. When the Thunder King's axe landed, Shao Chen quickly executed a secret technique that he had not used in a long time, the Sharp Spirit Finger. Shao Chen focused all his energy, vital chi, veritable essence energy, magic energy, and the demonic chi and black lightning running amok in his body. All of them were concentrated on a single finger. He had purposely revealed a flaw, waiting for this opportunity. In the time it took for a spark to fly, the berserk energy contained in the Sharp Spirit Finger knocked away the Thunder King's axe, causing it to fly out of his hand. However, the Thunder King still maintained the posture of holding the axe with both hands, chopping down with all his might. This finger was too fast and too strong. Shao Chen did not realize that he had lost the axe at all. By the time he reacted, Shao Chen opened his left hand. He had already finished storing up energy for the Ice Blood Lightning Dragon's killing move. A berserk tricolor dragon flew out of Shao Chen's palm. The Ice Blood Lightning Dragon immediately opened a huge bloody hole in the Thunder King's chest. Shao Chen's movements were smooth and coherent as if he had practiced them 100 times before. Everything happened in the time it took for a spark to fly. The Thunder King's body had not even landed. Shao Chen's right hand, which held the saber, quickly followed up with a chop. A resplendent saber light chopped the Thunder King's body in half. Countless faces squeezed under the demonic god's skin, looking distorted and horrifying. Clearly, he was in incredible pain. Shao Chen, I'm going to kill you. I definitely have to kill you. After the demonic god reacted, he threw a palm strike at Shao Chen at a crazy speed. However, Shao Chen was already prepared. He placed his left hand on the tip of his saber and blocked this palm strike. However, he was still injured and went flying back while vomiting blood. Clearly, this palm strike from the demonic god was extremely painful. Dragon Blood Soul Breaking Finger. Enduring the intense pain, Shao Chen executed his final sure kill move as he retreated. Success or failure depended on this finger strike. After putting in a lot of effort, the Thunder King struggled free from the tens of thousands of faces, turning the demonic god back into him. After recovering his face, the demonic god laughed maniacally and said, "Shao Chen, this is the killing move that you planned for a long time, right? Unfortunately, it still cannot kill me. I am undying." However, as the demonic god spoke, he suddenly felt immense horror. The instant the retreating Shao Chen sent out that finger strike, his aura suddenly changed drastically. Mysterious phenomena appeared in the sky. Countless strong winds swept through the battlefield. At this moment, Shao Chen's aura truly suppressed the demonic god. This caused the demonic god to feel fear in the depths of his soul and immense pressure. After recovering his face with much difficulty, the Thunder God's face started changing again. At one moment, it was the Thunder King's face. At another moment, it changed into something else. That was the soul in the demonic god's body feeling fear and starting to struggle. A soul Dao martial technique. This is impossible, absolutely impossible. Suddenly, the Thunder King felt extreme fear. He wanted to make a move and change something. However, he discovered that he could no longer control the demonic god. A scarlet light shot out from the tip of Shao Chen's finger. Everything within 10 kilometers entered the scarlet space. With Shao Chen's eyes, he could see through everything. Soul energy spread throughout the space. It was like there were no secrets in the world. The scarlet light with dragon patterns on it pierced through the demonic god's brain in an instant. Whoosh! The countless souls in the demonic god's body shattered. Countless beams of piercing black light burst out of the demonic god's body from the inside out. As the light bloomed, the demonic god's demonic might receded like a flood. Boom! The demonic god's body exploded. The might and pressure belonging to the demonic god vanished from the entire battlefield, vanishing from the world. Shao Chen fell to the ground in exhaustion. He held his chest with his right hand and coughed. Then, he got up and headed for the place where the demonic god exploded. He wanted to verify whether the demonic god was truly dead. The tip of the saber sliced the ground, giving off sizzling sounds. Then, Shao Chen walked over step by step. Only an image remained in the deep pit created by the explosion. It looked like it would vanish at any moment, flickering about. That was the Thunder King's soul. His soul was the strongest. Unlike the other souls, it was not destroyed by the soul-breaking finger. However, it was not far from destruction. Looking at the Thunder King's current state, it was clear. Shao Chen relaxed. He knew that the demonic god was truly dead. Looking at the Thunder King's soul that looked like it would vanish at any moment, Shao Chen asked, "Do you regret it?" The Thunder King's soul smiled and said, "Regret? I only regret that I did not ruthlessly kill you back then. Don't be happy too early. Unless you do not leave the Kunlun realm, you will not be able to escape death once you leave. I just die before you. The winner takes all. From the day I became the Dark Church's church master, I never regretted it." Ha ha ha. Shao Chen's heart sank. He felt that something was wrong. However, just as he was about to ask something, amid the maniacal laughter, the Thunder King's soul started to flicker intensely, growing fainter and fainter until it vanished. Even in death, this madman who toyed with the many Kunlun realm primes did not show any regret. Chapter 1544. This time, the demonic god finally died. As far as the eye could see, the entire fiend army had already been killed until it was beyond recognition. With the death of the demonic god, these demon cultivators and demonic beast kings became even more horrified, losing all their will to fight. Even the few demon monarchs chose to flee, not daring to linger in battle. After chasing the demon army out of the profound domain, no one gave chase. It was not that they did not want to, but that they were too tired. The Kunlun realm won against the deep abyss demonic world once again. However, the price they paid this time was much more severe than in any of the previous demonic calamities. Rivers of blood flowed in the Xian domain. Every single person who survived felt grief and sorrow. After the battle ended, the people in charge of the various sects gathered the surviving disciples. Many sects, from the sect leaders to the lower-level disciples, were all killed in this battle. Several disciples cried loudly as they looked at the corpses of their friends and family. The furthest distance in the world was life and death. That was a hurdle that could never be crossed. Once lost, there was no way to search for it. It could only appear in one's memories. When the scenes flashed, one would recall the past of their family and friends, leaving only grief. In an instant, the entire mystic region was filled with sorrowful cries. These unyielding men were all unyielding. These unyielding men did not cry even when they were in despair. Now that they chased away the demons, they could no longer hold back their grief and released it. Xiao Chen also felt regret in his heart. There were definitely people from the Dragon's Gate who died as well, including Ling Yu, whom he personally killed. In this battle, Xiao Chen's strength had improved significantly, and he had gained a lot. However, compared to what he lost, the price was too heavy. Big Brother Xiao. Many figures moved around the battlefield. Everyone was busy searching for the corpses of their family and friends. Mo Chen quickly led the Dragon's Gate's people to Xiao Chen's side. Beside her were Xianyuan Zhantian, Lan Xiaobai, Lan Yu, Kim Taeho, Gong Yangyu, and many Dragon's Gate doyens. Although they were severely injured, most of them were not dead. Mo Chen explained to Xiao Chen. The main reason was the Yin-Yang Grand Formation that Xiao Chen left, which united the people of the Dragon's Gate as one. Many of the Dragon's Gate doyens, who fought independently, joined the Saber Formation the moment there was danger. Among all the sects, the Dragon sect was considered to have suffered lesser losses. This result caused Xiao Chen to feel slightly at ease. Not long after, friends of the same generation appeared one after another, greeting Xiao Chen. Feng Xingsheng, Xue Lingling, and Juanxi, Bai, Yuan Su, and many of Xiao Chen's good friends were still around. At this moment, standing in the middle of the battlefield, everyone who had survived felt that it had not been easy. Everyone could feel that it was not easy to live. Xiao Chen, this time, the Kunlun realm is all thanks to you. Without you, Kunlun would not have won. Xiao Chen shook his head and said, "That's not right. We were able to win by a fluke this time because everyone was united. We disregarded life and death and worked together in exchange for it. Everyone did their best. Just like all of you, I also did my best. They are the real heroes." Xiao Chen stretched out his hand and pointed at the Kunlun realm cultivators who died in battle. Everyone followed his finger, shifting their gazes. Many scenes seemed to appear before everyone's eyes. There was the touching scene of Fu Hongyao stabbing Chu Yang with countless swords and falling down together. There was also Yan Shisan and Di Wuk, two outstanding talents, releasing the final light of their lives in exchange for a celestial demon monarch's head. There was also the shocking scene of the three holy masters' son, Xiao Hoju, dying in battle and Shimen Bao's entire family dying on the battlefield. Those vivid scenes, those familiar names. Thinking about it, those shared experiences seemed like it was just yesterday. Tears welled up in everyone's eyes as they felt a strange sorrow. These were all outstanding talents of the same generation. Everyone had interacted before, barging into the Forbidden Lands together and participating in the martial gathering together. There had been battles, trials and tribulations, as well as battles of wills and emotions. However, now, they could no longer see those people. Everything became a memory. During the great battle, everyone suffered together. It was easy to imagine that the Kunlun realm would be peaceful for a long time to come. The Kunlun realm would enter a period of cultivation and recuperation. With the lingering charm of the Golden Age, the Kunlun realm would develop very quickly. These outstanding talents who had experienced the baptism of war would definitely grow very quickly as well. It is too unfortunate that Di Wuk and Yan Shisan died, and Juanxi said in a somewhat choked voice as he rubbed his eyes. The place fell silent. Everyone felt very heavy in their hearts. Xiao Chen said, "Everyone, go back first and deal with the aftermath. There are still some loose ends that need to be taken care of. Goodbye." Everyone stepped forward and performed cupped fist salutes at the same time, saying goodbye to Xiao Chen. After the outstanding talents of the same generation left, the Kunlun Palace's palace master, Ying Zongtian, and the others arrived before Xiao Chen. The four looked at each other. Everyone was somewhat speechless. After a simple greeting, the Kunlun Palace's palace master said, "Xiao Chen, you deal with the Dragon's Gates matter as well. Leave the loose ends to the Kunlun Palace. We have experience with this." Ying Zongtian said, "Of the 18 demon monarchs, only 8 remain. They all fled back to the demonic world. After you deal with the Dragon's Gates matter, we can discuss what to do." Xiao Chen entered deep thought. Then, he said, "Leave this to me. I will make a trip to the deep abyss demonic world. With my strength, this time, I will be able to eliminate all the hidden dangers of the demon race." When the primes heard this, they nodded slightly. With Xiao Chen making a move, that would be for the best. "Everyone, I will take my leave first. There are still many matters of the deity race waiting for me to deal with." Emperor Forsaken appeared extremely fatigued. This time, the deity race suffered heavy losses. The death of the divine son, Di Wuk, was a huge blow to Emperor Forsaken. "I will take my leave as well." Everyone took their leave. They all had some necessary matters to deal with. Everyone was very busy on the battlefield. Xiao Chen still had something to deal with, so he could not return to the Dragon's Gate for now. Although Xiao Chen had the lunar shadow saber, the item spirit, Ao Jiao, had not returned yet. Although he could sense that she was fine, he still had to find her and understand what happened. After informing Mo Chen, Xiao Chen followed his senses and found the restricted Ao Jiao 50 kilometers outside the profound domain. Xiao Chen frowned slightly. Why is Ao Jiao here? Furthermore, someone is restricting her. When Ao Jiao saw Xiao Chen, her eyes immediately darted around. However, she could not move at all. When Xiao Chen saw this scene, he smiled faintly and went over to help her remove the restriction. The restriction set up was not malicious. It was just a restriction to trap people. However, the method used was quite brilliant. Xiao Chen tried a few times before he managed to remove the restriction. It was very troublesome. "You are finally here. I nearly suffocated to death. Did you kill the demonic god?" Xiao Chen nodded and said, "The demonic god is already dead, and the remnant demon armies have retreated from the Kunlun realm. The war is over. We won." "That's great. I knew you would be able to do it. You really did it." Xiao Chen said indifferently, "I won by luck. Tell me about you. Who restricted you? Why did you leave the lunar shadow saber for no reason at all?" Ao Jiao sighed and said, "Aren't I helping you? After a person's head is chopped off, if it can be reattached quickly, it can still be saved. At that time, you held off the Thunder King. This was a rare opportunity. Naturally, I could not miss it." Xiao Chen was stunned, and his expression changed drastically. Could it be that Leng Yu is not dead yet? What happened after that? Did you save Leng Yu? Ao Jiao said helplessly, "I don't know. I just helped to stitch up her head and body. I don't know if I can save her or not. Then, someone snatched Leng Yu away. I ran out to give chase. After that, this is what you see now." Xiao Chen asked anxiously, "Did you see that person? What does he look like? How strong is he? If Leng Yu did not die, then he would have fewer regrets in this war." "I don't know. That person was too fast and very strong. At the very least, he is a prime." Ao Jiao lowered her head and said softly, "Sorry, this is all I can do to help." After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen's expression turned much warmer. He said warmly, "It's fine. I already roughly guessed who did it." "Who is it?" "My greatest enemy." Chapter 1545. Xiao Chen already had a rough guess as to who kidnapped Leng Yu. More accurately, it should be the one who saved Leng Yu. Someone who could interact with Leng Yu and risk his life to save her. Furthermore, the only one who could do this without anyone noticing was Chu Chaoyun. Aside from Chu Chaoyun, who else could it be? However, this was a good thing. Leng Yu would not die. After this battle, Xiaoqin no longer had any regrets. He had done his best to kill the demonic god. Most of the people of the Dragon's Gate were still alive. This was already a great consolation. Ao Jiao, rest first. I'll make a trip to the Blue Dragon Palace. Xiaoqin said softly as he looked at Ao Jiao. Ao Jiao nodded and turned into a beam of light, returning to the immortal spirit ring. The old dragon horse and the others had been waiting in the Blue Dragon Palace for a long time already, respectfully waiting for Xiaoqin. Congratulations, young master, on killing the demonic god and eliminating a threat to the Kunlun realm. This battle severely injured the Dark Church. If the outside factions want to target the Kunlun realm, they will need at least tens of thousands of years to prepare. The moment the young woman entered the palace, she spoke up. Young master, seeing that your cultivation is even more stable and that you learned a Soul Dao martial technique, you must have met the blood-soaked Dragon Emperor, the old dragon horse said with a smile. Young master, tell us, what kind of person is this blood-soaked Dragon Emperor? There are many legends about him in the dragon race. The others rushed to ask Xiaoqin a bunch of questions. Xiaoqin nodded slightly and answered some of them. However, what kind of person was the blood-soaked Dragon Emperor? There was no way to give a simple summary. Like Xiaoqin, that person wore long white robes and had a sinister look on his face, looking like he was smiling. However, the cold killing chi in that person's eyes made it hard for others to associate that expression with a smile. This person's character was also extremely strange. One moment, he showed extreme disdain for Xiaoqin. Then, he told Xiaoqin all the important points of the Soul Dao martial technique in detail. What kind of character was this? A tsundere? These people probably could not accept that the blood-soaked Dragon Emperor, whom the dragon race revered as a legend, was such a strange person. Xiaoqin smiled and said, the blood-soaked Dragon Emperor is very strong. I have not interacted with him for long, so it is hard to say what kind of person he is. These are all minor details. Young master, when do you plan to leave this banished land? The old dragon horse asked simply and straightforwardly. Xiaoqin said thoughtfully, I still have some trivial matters to deal with in the Kunlun realm. Furthermore, I am not ready yet. I am afraid I cannot leave for a while. The old dragon horse nodded and said with a serious expression, no matter when you leave, there is one thing that you must do. Big Brother Long, go ahead. The reconstructed Dragon's Gate must leave behind the blue dragon totem for people to worship and worship. Xiaoqin said thoughtfully, what's the reason? Do you know why no one can obtain the blue dragon martial spirit after the Dragon's Gate is destroyed? It is because the totem is no longer around. As long as the totem receives enough worship, the Dragon's Gate disciples who signed a contract with the totem will eventually have a blue dragon martial spirit. At that time, they will come to our Blue Dragon Palace to take the test. As long as they pass the test, we will help them activate their Blue Dragon bloodline. As long as the sect prospers, the Blue Dragon bloodline will be reborn. At this point, the old dragon horse paused for a while before continuing, of course, there is a prerequisite to all this. What prerequisite? The prerequisite is that you can become the Dragon Emperor, the Dragon's Gate said, enunciating every word as it looked at Xiaoqin. The other Blue Dragon Palace's item spirits said, Young Master, this is an unavoidable responsibility as the Master of the Blue Dragon Palace. I hope you can understand that our Blue Dragon bloodline has been destroyed in the outside world for tens of thousands of years already. However, we have never given up or despaired. Now, we place all our hopes on you. Young Master, you can definitely do it. Even the strongest blood-soaked Dragon Emperor chose you. Xiaoqin could feel the fervor, pride, and glory in their words. Since I chose the Blue Dragon Palace, I definitely will not give up. However, I have a question. Earlier, Big Brother Dragon, you said that after the Dragon's Gate's totem was destroyed, it would not be possible to give birth to a blue dragon martial spirit. Why can I? The Dragon's Gates group exchanged looks, not knowing how to answer. In the end, it was the Dragon's Gates that said, Young Master, actually, we discovered long ago that you have other secrets. It is not as simple as we thought. You can only unravel all this on your own. Even in the outside world, I have never seen such an exquisite cultivation technique for your Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. To think that it can allow one to dual cultivate immortal energy and martial energy, cultivating magic energy and essence energy at the same time. I believe that back then, the blood-soaked Dragon Emperor also discovered your secret. That's why he took the risk to pass on a Soul Dao martial technique to you, as your soul energy is very strong. The girl in her prime continued, actually, I also know the Dragon Blood soul-breaking finger. However, it is not as mighty as Young Master's. Furthermore, Young Master, this is your first time cultivating it. This is very unusual. Xiao Chen looked at the serious expressions of these people. These were major characters with much higher cultivations than him. It is that incredible. The few nodded at the same time and said, extremely terrifying. Xiao Chen smiled and did not say anything more about his secret. He could guess that it had something to do with the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. However, it was not time to tell others yet. Big Brother Dragon, let me ask you something. Did you manage to figure out the origins of that dark church? After thinking for a while, the old dragon horse answered, it is the Black Lotus Church, an evil sect born from the Buddhist sect. It is not very strong, but the Buddhist sect has not been able to completely destroy this sect. This is sufficient to show that this Black Lotus Church still has some accumulations. This stunned Xiao Chen. Then, he asked seriously, Big Brother Dragon, take a look at me. Is there anything wrong with me? Let me take a look. Suddenly, the girl in her prime opened her eyes. Many stars flickered in her eyes. It was like everything in the world froze before her eyes. Xiao Chen felt a force travel around his body. However, he could not figure out the meridians and direction of this force. This is soul energy. For this girl to be able to use her soul energy so nimbly, she was at least 2 cultivation realms higher than him. What is that? The azure-clad man said, pointing to an indistinct clump of black chi at Xiao Chen's chest. Lotus flower seal. When Xiao Chen looked carefully, that was the silhouette of a black lotus. However, it was too blurry and hard to distinguish. Hong Yi, take a look and see if you can help him get rid of it. This should have been planted by that demonic god when you fought with him. Xiao Chen thought for a while. He had fought with the demonic god for too long and had too many opportunities to make a move. He simply could not imagine when the demonic god planted this seal on him. The girl in her prime nodded and gathered her soul energy at Xiao Chen's chest. However, after a few attempts, the black lotus flower seal would grow back. There was no way to get rid of it. Big Brother Long, this lotus flower seal is not harmful and will not cause any damage to the body. However, it has merged with Young Master's flesh and soul. It can only be removed once Young Master's soul and physical body are destroyed, the girl in her prime said helplessly as she withdrew her soul energy. The girl in her prime withdrew her soul energy and said helplessly. Xiao Chen's heart sank. No wonder the Thunder King said that he would not leave the Kunlun realm unless he did not leave. Otherwise, once he left, he would not be able to escape death. It was just a matter of time. The Dragon King studied it for a while. Then, he looked at Xiao Chen and said, it looks like there is really no way to get rid of this black lotus flower seal. This seal should be used to track people. However, I find it strange that the Black Lotus Church made such a big fuss to track you. In the past, I felt that it was too difficult for a faction like the Black Lotus Church to waste so many resources to obtain a rock of origin. I felt that they wanted something else. Perhaps the problem lies with you. The girl in her prime looked at the old dragon horse and asked, Big Brother Long, what should we do? With Xiao Chen's current strength, not to mention the Black Lotus Church's church master. Even his subordinates can capture Xiao Chen. The old dragon horse said calmly, "There is no need to rush. I have some ways to deal with this. When Xiao Chen decides to leave, I should be able to figure it out." "In that case, many thanks, Big Brother Long, young master, you are too polite. Give me the Emperor Dragon Ring in your hand. I'll go and retrieve the divine material for the Soaring Dragon Ring." Emperor Dragon Ring? What Emperor Dragon Ring? Xiao Chen felt confused for a while before realizing that the old dragon horse was referring to the ring that his father left for him. Rumor has it that the dragon god obtained this ring during the Great Desolate Aeon. The original item was a special divine material. The dragon god did not completely comprehend its mysteries. He only polished it into a ring and passed it down from generation to generation, becoming the symbol of the Dragon Emperor. What happened after that? Ha! During the blood-soaked Dragon Emperor's generation, the blood-soaked Dragon Emperor treated it as the personal belonging of our Blue Dragon Bloodline's clan head, passing it down from generation to generation. No one gossiped about it. What gossiping? The blood-soaked Dragon Emperor is a great contributor to the entire dragon race. Without him, the dragon race would not have its current glory. It would have declined long ago, the girl in her prime said disapprovingly. The old dragon horse smiled and said, "Actually, it is the blood-soaked Dragon Emperor who feels that this Emperor Dragon Ring has other mysteries. Although he cannot comprehend it, it does not mean that the Blue Dragon's descendants cannot. He is taking care of our bloodline. Although the other bloodlines are unhappy, this ring is just a symbol, so it is up to the blood-soaked Dragon Emperor to do whatever he wants." When Xiao Chen heard this, he felt speechless. This blood-soaked Dragon Emperor was truly tyrannical. No wonder the Blue Dragon's descendants respected him. Chapter 1546. After walking out of the Blue Dragon Palace, Xiao Chen continued to stare at the Emperor Dragon Ring in his hand. Unexpectedly, this insignificant ring had such a great origin. It was actually left from the Dragon God's era. The Dragon God was the father of the three ancestor dragons. Before the world was created, when the universe was still in primal chaos, he was already a primal chaos god demon. Even during that legendary era, he was of famous existence. However, after the primal chaos era ended, these god demons all sealed themselves. However, they all had descendants. The three ancestor dragons were the descendants of the dragon god, representing the will of the dragon god. During the Great Desolate Aeon, they competed with the 10,000 races. Xiao Chen thought, the dragon god already knows the mysteries of the Emperor Dragon Ring. It is just that the later generations found it hard to understand. Otherwise, the dragon god would not deliberately carve it into a ring, passing it down from generation to generation. Unfortunately, no one in the dragon race could understand it. As for Xiao Chen, he only needed to watch. This was something that the successive dragon emperors could not understand, so he could only watch. In the Blue Dragon Palace, Big Brother Dragon gave Xiao Chen a piece of Blue Dragon Divine Wood and a Divine Knife Skills inspection. The knife skills were not the saber of a bladesman but the carving knife of an engraver. Xiao Chen needed to personally carve the Blue Dragon Totem. At first, Xiao Chen thought that this would be a simple matter. After all, in the past, for the sake of practicing the life bestowal spell, he had studied carving for a while. Who knew? After hearing about it, he realized that it was a vast project. The Blue Dragon Divine Wood was 1 kilometer tall. The blue dragon carved in it would probably be several kilometers long. After carving the 10,000 dragon scales, they would look like ripples on water. There could not be any flaws. Otherwise, the charm of the Blue Dragon Totem would not be as it should be. There were also the dragon claws, dragon tail, dragon horns, dragon head, and dragon eyes. They all had their own requirements. This was also why Big Brother Dragon gave Xiao Chen the Divine Knife Skills inspection. Without this inspection, it would be very difficult for Xiao Chen to carve the Blue Dragon Totem with his current carving skills. Xiao Chen treated it as nourishing his heart. His cultivation could not advance any further, stuck at late-stage veritable essence stage in the Kunlun realm. The next realm, the Yin essence stage, required one to absorb the baleful Yin energy in the world. However, those were too low in quality. The old dragon horse did not recommend that Xiaoqin absorb them. More importantly, his cultivation had already reached the limits of the Kunlun realm. At this moment, Heavenly Star Island was already in the clouds, flying towards the heavenly starry ocean. After the great battle, Xiaoqin had finally calmed down. All he needed to do now was wait for the battle with Chu Chaoyun. There was another problem, the black lotus mark in his body. Elder brother Long did not have a good way to deal with it at the moment. Thinking about it carefully, the Thunder King's words showed that he really wanted to kill him before he grew up. However, for some reason, he had never taken action. The Black Lotus Church is an evil sect that broke away from Buddhism. Why is it seeking trouble for me? Xiaoqin, speaking of Buddhism, have you forgotten something? Ao Jiao suddenly said from the immortal spirit ring. Did you forget something? Ksitigarbha. Xiaoqin stopped. He had really forgotten about the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. He had been busy dealing with the demonic calamity. Now that the great battle had just ended, if not for Ao Jiao's reminder, Xiaoqin would have completely forgotten about this person. Xiaoqin had not even refined the Heavenly Flame's origin flame. Refining the Heavenly Flame's origin flame required time and a special method. Xiaoqin had not been able to find the method, so he could only put it aside for now. After that, he first busied himself with dealing with the Thunder King in the Heavenly Starry Ocean and saving the various sections. After that was the demonic calamity. Xiaoqin had no time to rest at all. Now, he had to carve the blue dragon totem. He nearly overworked himself. Where could the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva be? He must be at Meteor Trail City. The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva must be using this opportunity to absorb the sins in the sky above Meteor Trail City. Xiaoqian's face sank. He did not even have time to greet the Dragon's Gate's people. Instead, he leaped off Heavenly Star Island and rushed to the Tianwu Domain's Meteor Trail City. Xiaoqin unfurled the blue dragon divine wings and flew very quickly. In less than 7 or 8 minutes, he arrived at Meteor Trail City. Xiaoqin withdrew his wings and landed. Then, he looked up. Indeed, most of the red sin clouds above Meteor Trail City had vanished, leaving only a small patch. In the sky above the clouds, the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's dermic body was currently absorbing the last of the scarlet clouds. The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva gave off a peaceful Buddhist light behind him. Amid the bright Buddhist light, the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva looked solemn and dignified, inspiring respect. The dermic body had the divine Vajra eyes. When the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva saw Xiaoqin arrive, he opened his mouth and sucked, directly swallowing the last of the scarlet sins. Benefactor Xiaoqin, you are too late. The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva revealed a benevolent smile. Then, he withdrew his dermic body and quickly fled into the distance. It's not that easy to run. How could Xiaoqin allow the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva to leave so easily? He gently pushed off the ground and soared into the air, quickly giving chase. Since there is karma, there is karma. Everything is predestined. These sins were originally mine. Back then, the Qing Emperor took away the good and evil merit formula. Today, you return it to me. This is the cycle of karma. Benefactor Xiaoqin, there's no need to obstruct us. The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's true body sat on the golden lotus platform. As he looked at Xiaoqin, he continuously retreated. Buddhist light flickered beneath the lotus platform, allowing him to move extremely quickly. Thus, the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, who was sitting on the lotus platform, was rather calm. He could even divert his attention to purify the last of his sins. Stop quibbling. Which one of you Buddhists isn't eloquent and eloquent? If you become a Buddha, how can you really let me go? Xiaoqin had always been straightforward. Whether or not the other party absorbed sin had nothing to do with him. Whether he became a Buddha or not, or whether he had any ambitions, he did not care. However, the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva had a grudge with Shao Qin long ago. That would endanger his safety and might even hurt his friends. Shao Qin needed to nip this danger in the bud. Back at Heavenly Star Island Sea region, the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's method of absorbing faith was also very evil. He did not care about the lives of his believers at all. The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva smiled and said, "Benefactor is a very understanding person. The karma between us has not been settled. After this Bodhisattva becomes a Buddha, I need to end this karma. Otherwise, it will become a negative karma. Unfortunately, you are no longer able to injure me. It is already too late. May the Lord Buddha praise me." The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva formed a hand seal with one hand, and his figure suddenly vanished from Shao Qin's sight. Whoosh! Shao Qin stopped in midair and checked the surroundings with his spiritual sense. He discovered that the other party seemed to have vanished into thin air, nowhere to be seen. Where did he go? Shao Qin. Just as Shao Qin was at his wit's end, someone suddenly called out his name in the sky. When Shao Qin looked up, he saw a palanquin rushing towards him. The 8-ghost palanquin. It's Qing Cheng. The person who came was the ghost race's Qing Cheng, the disciple of ghost mother Sun Shi. She had interacted with Shao Qin many times and could be considered a friend in times of adversity. Qing Cheng floated down from the palanquin. Like before, her complexion was pale, without a trace of blood. When Qing Cheng saw Shao Qin, she smiled and landed before her. "Qing Cheng, why are you here?" When Qing Cheng heard that, she covered her mouth and smiled. "Me? This is the ghost domain. After the battle, if I don't return here, where should I go?" Ghost domain? Shao Qin's mind trembled as he thought of something. The Yellow Springs Purgatory. The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva must have gone to the Yellow Springs Purgatory. No wonder the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva vanished without a trace. The Yellow Springs Purgatory was his lair. "Sorry, I still have something important to do. I really can't chat any longer." Shao Qin performed a cup-fist salute and prepared to rush to the Yellow Springs Purgatory. Qing Cheng quickly stopped him and said, "Wait, tell me where you are going first." "The Yellow Springs Purgatory." Qing Cheng's expression changed slightly. She said sullenly, "Don't go there for now. When my master returns, we'll bring you there." "How about that?" Surprised, Shao Qin said, "What's wrong? We've been to the Yellow Springs Hell before. Given our current strength, what's wrong with going there?" Qing Cheng shook her head and said, "There is something you don't know. The current Yellow Springs Hell is really different from before. Why do you think our ghost realm has not gone to the Kunlun realm to meet up with you after the death of the ghost monarch? Why? Could it be because of the Yellow Springs?" "That's right. It's because of the Yellow Springs Hell, the final moments of the ghost emperor's life. He frequently appears in the Yellow Springs Hell, which makes him seem extremely strange. He even sealed the entrance to Hell, forbidding outsiders from entering." Qing Cheng continued to explain, "Furthermore, many of his direct descendants are still in the Yellow Springs Hell, not killed. My master has attacked the entrance to Hell several times in an attempt to figure out what's going on inside, but to no avail." Shao Qin muttered to himself. This was indeed a little strange. However, this only served to further prove that the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was in the Yellow Springs. Chapter 1547. After pondering for a moment, Shao Qin nodded and said, "All right, I'll listen to you. When it's time, I'll go with your master." Qing Cheng smiled faintly and said, "I'll inform my master now. Let's go to the Yellow Springs Hell and wait for your master." The Yellow Springs Hell was one of the famous forbidden lands of the Kunlun realm. Its fame was comparable to the savage battlefield. During the immortal epoch, before the 6 paths of reincarnation broke, this place was the netherworld, in charge of the 3 realms and 6 paths, the reincarnation of all living things. In that era, if one did not become an immortal, they would be reincarnated forever. Based on the merits of good and evil, the underworld would judge and appoint them to reincarnate in the next life. Those who were evil would enter the path of beasts, and in their next life, they would be pigs, dogs, and beasts without intelligence. They would inevitably be slaughtered by others. On the other hand, those who committed great crimes and committed great evils would be tortured in hell according to their sins. It was a horrible sight to behold. Those who did good would be reincarnated as humans in the next life and walk the cycle of reincarnation. Those who had great merit could even directly enter the heavenly Tao. They were born with a celestial physique and were nurtured by the heavens and the earth. They were known as heavenly soldiers and generals. Now that the immortal Tao was broken, reincarnation no longer existed, and hell no longer existed. All that was left was the shattered Yellow Springs hell. The past was like smoke. The facts of the past had become the legends and myths of today. In this era, reincarnation no longer existed, and there were no immortals in the world. Everyone could only live for one lifetime, and very few people believed in merit. But who could have known that a bodhisattva from the previous era had always been hidden in the infernal realm? He made a great vow that he would not become a Buddha until hell was empty. He waited for millions of years. His willpower and his heart towards Buddhism were both terrifying. It just so happened that such a person was an extremely ambitious person. In order to achieve his goal, he would do anything. They only knew how to take, not how to give. The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was an extremely frightening existence. Strictly speaking, his origins were much greater than the Thunder King and the demonic god. Half a day later, Shaoqin and Qingqing arrived at the Tai Mountains above the Yellow Springs Hell. Grand Mountain was the same as before. The surrounding 50 kilometers were filled with yin energy. Occasionally, one could see wandering souls and wild ghosts drifting about. At the foot of the mountain, there was a turbid river that flowed from the top of the mountain all the way to the ground. This river was the famous Underworld River. It was also known as the River of the Dead, the Yellow Springs, and the River of Helplessness. However, the river had long since been incomplete. The cycle of reincarnation had shattered, and the heaven-stepped Dusk River had been broken into several pieces. Many of the strange characteristics of the river had been lost. If one walked down this river, they would reach 9 hells purgatory. Shaoqin, do you remember this river? Qingqing asked softly as she recalled some past events. Of course I remember. Shaoqin looked around with some nostalgia. He remembered the last time he was here, there were many cultivators gathered at the riverbank. This time, only the sound of the river could be heard, and the surroundings were empty. When they crossed the river, something interesting happened. At that time, the boatman was Qingqing in disguise. Shaoqin, Bai, and the others were almost caught in a dilemma. The memories stopped here. If they continued, the situation would become a little awkward. Hee hee. It seems like someone wanted to take off my clothes at that time. Although Shaoqin did not want to remember, Qingqing took the initiative to mention it. She looked at Shaoqin mischievously. Shaoqin smiled embarrassedly. Just as he did not know how to answer, a figure descended from the sky. It was Ghost Mother Xuanqian. The smile on Qingqing's face faded, replaced by a serious expression. Blue Dragon King, sorry for making you wait, Ghost Mother Xuanqian said politely, showing great respect to Shaoqin. Shaoqin smiled calmly and said, Ghost Mother is too polite. I would like to know what is so special about this Yellow Springs Purgatory. Ghost Mother Xuanqian nodded and said, the entrance to the Underworld River into the Yellow Springs Purgatory is blocked by a Buddha statue. That Buddha statue can draw energy from the Underworld River and is very difficult to deal with. I organized a few groups of people but could not break that Buddha statue. I do not know much about what the Yellow Springs Purgatory looks like now. Shaoqin entered deep thought. It looked like Ghost Mother Xuanqian did not know much. Come with me to take a look. In the past, one could not fly over the Underworld River. However, to the current Shaoqin, it was naturally not restricted. As for Qingqing and Ghost Mother, one was a greater heavenly martial emperor and the other was a holy master. It would not be difficult for them to fly there. Above the Underworld River, Xiaoqin kept feeling a strange suction from below, trying to pull him down. Now, Xiaoqin had already touched the surface of Soul Dao martial techniques. He knew that this was the soul energy of the underworld river causing trouble. Although Emperor Wu and the others could not cultivate soul energy, their soul energy would definitely grow stronger as their strength increased. It was just that they could not use it. With Emperor Wu's soul energy, the suction from the underworld river was no longer effective. Xiaoqin flew along the underworld river, continuously descending. Soon, he arrived at the end of the underworld river. Xiaoqin saw the Buddha statue that Ghost Mother Xuanqian mentioned. It was a 1,000-meter-tall Buddha statue radiating golden light as it sat on the underworld river. The Buddha statue's huge body made the underground space seem small. The depths of hell are not for mortals. All of you, quickly retreat. Suddenly, the Buddha statue opened its eyes, and its entire body radiated golden light. Waves of Buddhist might caused the underworld river's water to surge endlessly. What a strong Buddhist might! Qing Qing exclaimed with a slight frown. Ghost Mother Xuanqian said, there are many arhats behind the Buddha statue. They are laying formations, allowing the Buddha statue's strength to increase infinitely. Mortal? Are you not immortal? Xiaoqin smiled coldly. Then, he stepped forward and punched. Rumble. The underworld river's water rose continuously and covered the Buddha statue, looking like it was covered in golden paint. The Buddha statue formed hand seals with one hand and blocked Xiaoqian's punch. Its golden body did not budge, and the Buddhist light became even more intense. Interesting. Unfortunately, I don't have time to play with you anymore. Xiaoqin shouted, and 10,000 dragon force gathered into a dragon cauldron. Then, the cauldron's force burst out. Xiaoqin was fast and ruthless. Before the Buddha statue could react, it got struck in the chest. Cracks appeared on the Buddha statue's body, spreading out like a spiderweb. Just as the Buddha statue looked like it was about to shatter, solemn Buddhist scriptures rang out behind it. The underworld river's water surged continuously. The cracks on the Buddha statue, which had already shattered, quickly mended. Soon, it was as good as new. That's it. This Buddha statue cannot be killed at all. We tried several times already, Ghost Mother Xuanqian said softly. This was not her first time seeing this scene. Xiaoqin carefully looked at the Buddha statue. After a while, he understood what was going on. I thought there was some trick to it. It is just using the underworld river's soul energy to recover. Acting all mysterious. Today, I will destroy your soul. Xiaoqin shouted coldly, and Dao Might appeared on his body. A faint halo appeared behind him. The moment the Dao Might appeared, it immediately suppressed the other party's Buddhist might. Xiaoqin stretched out his hand, and a strong veritable essence energy formed a whirlpool in his palm. Whoosh! Whoosh! The strong suction continuously pulled the underworld river's water into the whirlpool. This sight stunned Qing Cheng. She had never thought that someone could pull the underworld river's water. When the Buddha statue saw this scene, it formed hand seals and sent out attacks at Xiaoqin. However, Ghost Mother Xuanqian blocked all the attacks, not injuring Xiaoqin at all. In reality, even without Ghost Mother Xuanqian making a move, Xiaoqin would be fine. However, with someone helping, it was better for Xiaoqin to focus. Soon, the underworld river under Xiaoqian's feet sank by 1 meter, separating the Buddha statue from the underworld river temporarily. Now! Xiaoqin punched. This time, after the Buddha statue shattered, no matter how loudly the Buddhist scriptures were chanted, the Buddha statue could not recover. When the Buddha statue shattered, a figure was sent flying out of it. It turned out that this Buddha statue was the Dharmic incarnation of a Buddhist cultivator. Now that the Dharmic incarnation was destroyed, the true body was revealed. The arhats chanting in the back all fled in all directions the instant the Buddha statue shattered. Xie Zishuan! Qing Qing exclaimed when she saw that person's appearance. This person was the ghost monarch's disciple, Xie Zishuan. It was hard to imagine that this person became a Buddhist cultivator. Don't call me Xie Zixuan. My Dermic name is Dao Xian now. You mortals, how dare you barge into my master's place? You will not have a good end. Shock filled Qing Cheng's face. She could not imagine how a perfectly fine person could become so strange. Don't find it strange. He has been purified, which is equivalent to brainwashing. He is now the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva's slave. If we follow him, we will be able to find the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva. This did not surprise Shao Chen. He took the initiative to give chase. Ghost Mother Xuanqian and Qing Qing quickly followed. Chapter 1548. Shao Chen and the other two followed far behind Xie Zixuan. As they walked, they discovered that hell had changed greatly. The gloomy darkness of the past had disappeared and was replaced by peace and serenity. Even the sky was clear. In the past, they did not see any wandering spirits or ghosts, much less any terrifying vengeful spirits or evil spirits. This startled Shao Chen. Could it be that the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva purified all the vengeful spirits in hell? If hell is not empty, I swear not to become a Buddha. The sins on Shao Chen had once been a part of hell. Back then, the Qing Emperor snatched them away. Now, the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva had already purified all the sins on the Qing Emperor and purified all the vengeful spirits in hell. Did that not mean that Shao Chen had already accomplished his great ambition? With this thought, Shao Chen suddenly stopped. He raised his head and looked coldly at Xie Zixuan in the distance. Blue Dragon King, what's wrong? Ghost Mother Xuanqi asked, feeling confused as she stepped forward. Qing Cheng, who was at the side, felt confused as well. She did not know why Shao Chen suddenly stopped. Shao Chen muttered, "We might have fallen for a trap. The other party probably lured us here on purpose." Ghost Mother Xuanqi and Qing Cheng exchanged looks, both extremely shocked. What kind of enemy was this? Even the Blue Dragon King, who had defeated a demonic god, found it difficult to deal with. However, the two soon discovered that they had misunderstood Shao Chen. However, that's fine as well. It saves me the trouble of traveling further. Let's just wait for him here, Shao Chen said softly with a faint smile. Qing Ching thought to herself, the current Shao Chen is really confident. Indeed, after a while, a Buddhist light appeared in front of them. You truly live up to being the descendant of the Qing Emperor. You are very smart and intelligent. I think you should follow this Bodhisattva and enter the Buddhist sect. When you reach the Great Realm, I will take care of you. I will guarantee that you will rise quickly. The Kittagarbha Bodhisattva sat on a lotus platform amid Buddhist chants, appearing in the sky with a group of arhats. There was a novice monk on each side, holding a canopy above his head. The 800 arhats were all wearing kasayas and holding Buddhist flutes and beads in their hands. They formed seals with one hand and released circles of Buddhist wheels. Like the stars surrounding the moon, the Ksittagarbha Bodhisattva glowed with radiance. His face was kind and amiable, and his eyes narrowed slightly as he spoke with a smile. You've already expiated all of the vengeful souls in hell. Shao Chen frowned slightly. He looked over and realized that he could no longer see through the other party. Benefactor Shao, you guessed right. I left a clone to purify the aggrieved spirits of hell. Now that his main body had merged with his clone, he had already purified all the spirits of hell. My ancient Buddha Chi has already spread out of the Kunlun realm. As long as the Buddhist Holy Land outside receives my Chi, the Buddhist eminent monks will immediately come to receive me. As long as you are willing to put down the butcher's knife, you can become a Buddha immediately. With a Buddhist sect powerhouse making a move, we can easily leave this abandoned land. The Ksittagarbha Bodhisattva spoke. His appearance was very dignified, and his expression was solemn. His words were like the principles of the world, inspiring conviction in others. Shao Chen smiled coldly and retorted, "What if I am not willing? May the Lord Buddha grant you mercy. In that case, this old monk can only forcefully purify you and wash away your sins." The many arhats leaped out and looked at Shao Chen malevolently. The Buddhist prayer beads in their hands gave off a bright light as they sent out many swastikas. The 800 arhats appeared very mighty. However, Shaoqin had experienced the Great War between humans and demons before. Such a formation paled in comparison. The 800 arhats only had the strength of 800 Emperor Wu's. If it were an ordinary prime, Shaoqin might feel some fear. After all, when 800 Emperor Wu's attacked together, their destructive power was extremely terrifying. However, Shaoqin was different. His blue dragon war body's physical defense already surpassed that of the heaven-punishing corpse god. Furthermore, his veritable essence energy surpassed primordial energy. Furthermore, the battle with the demonic god had given him many comprehensions. Although Xiao Chen's cultivation had risen, his combat prowess had increased significantly. Sharp spirit finger, break. Not wanting to waste time, Xiao Chen directly executed the sharp spirit finger when the 800 arhats attacked at the same time. Ka Xie. The countless seals instantly shattered, and the bodies of the 800 arhats exploded into pools of blood, dying on the spot. The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's expression changed drastically. He had not expected Xiao Chen to kill the 800 arhats in one move. Xiao Chen said indifferently, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, you probably did not see my battle with the demonic god and are not clear on my strength. To think that you set this up to ambush me. Don't you know that this is exactly what I wanted? Right after Xiao Chen spoke, he glared. The blood in his body surged, and dragon might gathered. His eyes turned a dazzling golden color. These were the great desolate divine eyes that every descendant of the great desolate 100 races possessed. Under the strong pressure, the Buddhist light on the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva withdrew into his body, completely suppressed. He could not send out any Buddhist might at all. Damn it! How can you be so strong? Even the Qing Emperor back then could not reach your level. The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva panicked. Originally, he estimated that Xiao Chen would be at most as strong as the Qing Emperor back then. However, how could the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva have expected that Xiao Chen's strength had already surpassed that of the Qing Emperor back then? Xiao Chen was not someone that the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, who had just recovered some of his true strength, could deal with. Damn it! Right now, the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva wished that he could slap himself twice. To think that he thought himself clever and lured the other party to the Yellow Springs hell. Had he known, he would have found a place to hide and waited for the powerhouses of the Buddhist sects to bring him out of this abandoned land. The lotus platform flew quickly, carrying the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva back to the Yellow Springs hell. Wait for me for a while. Xiao Chen instructed before giving chase alone. One chased while the other fled. Soon, the two crossed the gates of hell and arrived at the black and white Yellow Springs hell. The Yellow Springs Hell Road. Do not look back on the Yellow Springs Hell Road. Xiao Chen recalled that back then, when he walked this Yellow Springs Hell Road, he had been on tenterhooks and extremely nervous. Today, he returned to this place and chased after the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, forcing him to flee. Fate played tricks on people in the world. Whoosh! 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 Strands of saber light shot out from Xiao Chen, heading for the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva in front. Every strand of saber light illuminated this black and white world, making it colorful and bright. What the Qing Emperor could do back then, Xiao Chen could do as well. After comprehending the Saber Tao's great Tao, he could do it even more easily. Speaking of which, the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was rather unlucky. 10,000 years ago, he ran into the Qing Emperor, who used the demonic Tao to enter the Tao. After 10,000 years, the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva finally managed to turn things around. Then, he ran into Xiao Chen, who was even more terrifying than the Qing Emperor. This was enough to prove that the will of the heavens existed in the unseen world, not allowing an evil Buddha like him to bring disaster to the world. While it looked like a coincidence, in reality, the cause and effect were already set. Fate was hard to defy. Damn it! Why have the major characters of the Buddhist sects outside not made a move yet? Could it be that I schemed and guarded hell for so many years, but I am destined to fail at the last moment? As the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva dodged the saber light, he no longer looked as imposing as he did earlier. Now, he only appeared flustered and miserable. Pu Si. A strand of saber light struck the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's lotus platform, and it immediately turned into nothing. Caught off guard, the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva fell. The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva landed on the sea of bitterness below, splashing water all over him. After he stood up, he continued running forward. The 6 paths of reincarnation lay in front. If he went any further, he would have nowhere to run. Buddha above, could it be that I, the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, am I really at my wit's end today? The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva turned around in despair and looked at Xiaoqian. His eyes were filled with rage. Xiaoqian said lightly, "May I ask, Bodhisattva, do you still want to accept me as a disciple? Your dragon race is truly despicable. If not for the Taoist sects taking action back then, you would have long been converted by the Buddhist sects and become little dogs guarding the door. To think that I, the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, the illustrious name of a lifetime, was actually carried by a little dog like you." The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva said indignantly. Xiaoqian had heard the old dragon horse mention this before. For a period of time, the Buddhist sects nearly wiped out the dragon race. Many dragons were purified and turned into Buddhist guardian divine beasts. Later, due to the conflict between Buddhism and Taoism, the dragon race found fortuitous encounters and barely managed to reproduce. Only after the blood-soaked dragon emperor did the dragon race rise again. Just at this moment, a ray of light suddenly descended and enveloped Ksitigarbha's body. The light illuminated the entire Yellow Springs. Xiaoqian felt a piercing pain in his eyes and took a few steps back. Light of guidance. Ha ha ha. Heaven never bars one's way. Xiaoqian, our matter will not end so simply. When I cultivate the golden body of the Buddhist sects, no matter where you hide, I will find you and end this karma. Escaping from death's door, the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva laughed maniacally. Xiaoqian was slightly stunned. Could it be that Lu Ryue was taken away like this as well? However, it was not that easy for the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva to leave. Dragon blood soul-breaking finger. Suddenly, a horrifying aura burst out of Xiaoqian's body. A will burst out of his body, merging with the entire world. The blazing might made the light of guidance dim somewhat. When the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva pointed, sin poured out continuously from his body, giving off a scarlet light. Ah! The sin rebounded, and the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's face twisted in pain. He wanted to say something, but before he could finish, the light of guidance took him away. Xiaoqian stood upright with his hands behind his back, entering deep thought. He did not know if the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was dead or not. However, even if the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was not in a good state, even if the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva left the abandoned land, he would most likely be a cripple. Xiaoqian collected his thoughts and looked at the 6 paths of reincarnation in front. Chapter 1549. The primes revealed shocked expressions, all of them in disbelief. However, when I think about it, his strength should not be too horrifying. Otherwise, he could have immediately attacked the Kunlun realm after the demonic calamity, the Fox King analyzed calmly. Although it only had a simple silhouette, it was filled with boundlessly tyrannical aura. Whoosh! On the 1-kilometer-tall blue dragon divine tree, Xiaoqian hovered in the air. As he held the carving knife, his movements were slow but steady and smooth. However, he still did not turn around. When he was about to walk out, the human path of reincarnation shattered again. 6 paths of reincarnation, Sky Dome Immortal Lord, what are you trying to do? Do you still remember the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva? Xiaoqian asked. Xiaoqian thought of a possibility. The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was a person of the immortal epoch in the first place. Hence, the heavenly Tao of this abandoned land did not erase any memories of him. When Xiaoqian heard that, he showed a calm expression. What should come had finally come. He roughly guessed what was going on. In that case, the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's reincarnation, the last immortal. All the more, the heavenly Tao should not have erased any memories of him. This made Xiaoqin feel somewhat suspicious. Could it be that the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva was already completely broken? However, even after waiting for a long time, the broken human path of reincarnation showed no signs of mending. Indeed, it was as Xiaoqin expected. The residences from the immortal epoch were now in the hands of the major factions. The instant Xiaoqin turned around, the broken human path of reincarnation silently mended and formed a complete reincarnation path. The force of the brush was as heavy as a mountain. The place where the brush landed was extremely sharp. The words naturally exuded a vast and tyrannical aura. The same principle applied to carving. The carving knife was the brush in the hands of the carver. Why? We suspect that there are still powerful people in the demonic world who have not appeared yet. Now that the demonic god is dead, this person immediately took over the position of the demonic god and launched this attack, Emperor Forsaken said as he looked at Xiaoqin. Ingzongtian added, furthermore, this person should be extremely shrewd and good at enduring. When we were fighting the demonic world, he hid his strength and did not make a move. Mo Chen smiled. I guessed it. That's why I have been recording your name in a small notebook every day. Xiaoqin, you know him? Ingzongtian asked. Master saw that you kept coming back and felt a little worried, so I came over. At Ghost Mother Sun Shi's level, she could feel the horror of Xiaoqian's strength. There was no one in the Kunlun realm who could threaten him. Xiaoqin shook his head and said, there is no need. I know who he is. The situation is worse than you think. Naturally, Xiaoqin could not tell Mo Chen the reason. He smiled and said, I will tell you in the future. I will definitely return to this Kunlun realm. I will go to Kunlun Mountain first. The Qin, the Yun Dao, the most about it, just, he, spirit, he, Chen, he, Chen, and all, and. The few of them explained with frowns on their faces. Their brows were filled with worry. At first, Xiaoqin felt stunned. Then, he understood. The heavenly Tao would erase all traces of anyone who left the Kunlun realm. However, Ghost Mother Xuanxi smiled and did not refute. In reality, Qing Cheng had begged her several times before she reluctantly agreed. Right now, Xiaoqin was not strong enough. It was not yet time to unravel the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's secret. There were too many unpredictable dangers. Naturally, Xiaoqin saw it. His spiritual sense spread out for 5,000 kilometers around. He could even see the wind blowing and the grass moving. At the very least, the fight with Chu Chaoyun had not started yet. If he left, what would happen to the Kunlun realm? The remaining cycle of reincarnation was also shattered. However, Xiaoqin remembered that it did not seem to be completely shattered. Xiaoqin, something happened. The lower realms that our factions controlled were all uprooted. The experts we sent out never returned. Even the sovereign martial emperors did not return alive. After that, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord erased the scene, preventing Xiaoqin from seeing it. Xiaoqin waited here, staring at the cycle of reincarnation without moving. He wanted to see if it could mend. I do. He came from the Sky Dome with me. However, back then, I went to the Kunlun realm, and he went to the demonic world, Xiaoqin answered calmly. However, it was hard to avoid some ripples in his heart. What? It's good that it's dealt with. In that case, why are you staring at the 6 paths of reincarnation? Qing Cheng asked, feeling confused as she blinked. Mo Chen looked at Xiaoqin, who was focused on carving the blue dragon divine wood. In it, when the Qing Emperor appeared, he walked the cycle of reincarnation and entered Earth. When Mo Chen heard that, her heart felt empty. However, when she thought about it, Xiaoqin would have to leave sooner or later. Under the seemingly calm surface, a surging energy flowed in the dark. Nothing much. I was just curious. Let's go. Mo Chen quickly said, of course, I remember. You told me before. However, she could not dissuade Qing Cheng. So what if she came? Xiaoqin smiled and said, if she remembers the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva, then she should not forget me. Very wonderful. Unexpectedly, Big Brother Zhao's knife skills have such charm. Although I only dabbled in the art of carving, I can tell that Big Brother Zhao's carving skills are extraordinary. Just at this moment, Ghost Mother Xuanqian and Qing Qing appeared behind Xiaoqin. Did Xiaoqin see them? Emperor Forsaken, Yingzongtian, Ghost Mother Xuanqian, the heaven-punishing corpse god, and the Fox King were all there. Now, they were all snatched away by a mysterious faction. Furthermore, Xiaoqin did not know the other party's origins. Naturally, it was hard to avoid worrying. At that time, the entire Kunlun realm would crumble. All life would find it hard to escape destruction. Big Brother Xiao, Emperor Forsaken and the other primes sent a message, saying that they have urgent matters to discuss with you at Kunlun Mountain. After putting down the carving knife, Xiaoqin landed firmly on the ground. Then, he looked at Mo Chen and said, Mo Chen, what do you think of my carving? Earth was the final refuge of the immortals. There, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord lived alone until the end. He personally buried the many immortals. Then, the Qing Emperor Xiao Teng arrived. Xiaoqin returned to this place again. Back then, in the three-life mirror, Xiaoqin saw his past. The major factions had just experienced a demonic calamity, and they all suffered heavy losses. No one would be able to endure another great battle. Mo Chen looked at the blue dragon divine wood and saw that the skeleton of a blue dragon had already been carved on the divine wood. It was not time yet. The Qing Emperor only dared to go all out at the moment of his death. The heaven-punishing corpse god was an impatient person. Without waiting for Xiaoqin to stand firmly, he spoke quickly. Since ancient times, the powerful outstanding talents would leave the Kunlun realm and pursue the martial Dao, reaching an even higher peak. All along, the Kunlun realm had been treated as their exclusive property, not allowing others to make a move on them. Xiaoqin, Qing Qing, and Ghost Mother Sun Shi left this Yellow Springs hell with some doubts. Knife skills were like calligraphy. They required the strength of the brush, the tip of the brush, and the spirit. At this point, Xiaoqin suddenly recalled that when the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva was taken away, Qing Qing and Ghost Mother Sun Shi had not forgotten about it. Xiaoqin said, this is the blue dragon totem. When the totem is completed, I will probably have to leave. In the end, the battle that was fated and could not be avoided had finally arrived. Xiaoqin stepped forward and arrived at the 6 paths of reincarnation. The heavenly Dao, Azura Dao, animal Dao, hungry ghost Dao, and hell Dao were all shattered beyond recognition. Emperor Forsaken said, it is not that we fear him. The main thing is that we cannot figure out his strength, so we would like to ask for your help. As for the spirit contained within, that was a rather high level of understanding. Mo Chen did not really understand it. Xiaoqin directly turned this abandoned land into a wasteland, all for the sake of his future. It was like the calm water of a river pushing the quicksand at the riverbed, moving slowly. In reality, Xiaoqian's words were not false at all. Chu Chaoyun's goal was to unify the 3,000 lower realms and then swallow up the Kunlun realm, absorbing the luck of the entire Kunlun realm. When the two met, Xiaoqin did not know what they said or what happened. Before the sky turned dark, Xiaoqin arrived at Kunlun Mountain. Xiaoqin turned his head and smiled. It's fine. I already dealt with the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's matter. 7 days later, Xiaoqin, who was quietly carving the blue dragon divine wood in the back mountain of the Dragon's Gate on Heavenly Star Island, was interrupted by a piece of news that Mo Chen brought. Chapter 1550. Who? There is more to it than meets the eye. Yingzongtian asked. Xiaoqin looked at Chu Chaoyun. With his current cultivation, he could vaguely make out some of Chu Chaoyun's secrets. When we fought the demonic gods, he did not make a move to cause trouble. He was being reasonable. There is no need to doubt him. He is someone with the strength to turn the situation around. Xiaoqin stood up and looked up at the starry heavens. Even though they were separated by millions of kilometers, it seemed like his vision clashed with that person's. The few primes exchanged glances with each other, their expressions somewhat grave. Blue Dragon King, we'll send you off. It seemed like Xiao Chen was always like this. Even though he caused a huge commotion, he remained hidden behind the scenes, preventing others from seeing through him or figuring him out. Xiao Chen held the lunar shadow saber and looked at it. Then, he said indifferently, "Little Ao Jiao, this might really be your last battle with me. Are you afraid?" It was like the lunar shadow saber could pierce through the entire world with just a slight movement. A golden light burst out and appeared in front of Chu Chaoyun. The peak characters of the Kunlun Mountain and the Kunlun Realm had noticed this long ago. The intense light illuminated the entire Kunlun continent as bright as day. This was the reason for the mysterious phenomenon of night and day and the twinkling stars. Chu Chaoyun. The two did not say anything. They just quietly looked at each other in the depths of the starry heavens. Xiao Chen nodded and said, "My family is in his hands." "Brother Xiao Chen, what do you think we should do?" The heaven-punishing corpse god asked as he looked at Xiao Chen. There were two extremely berserk energies in Chu Chaoyun's body. They repelled each other but were tightly bound together by a strong will. "Very good. I already helped her kill all the demon monarchs. The entire demonic world now respects her. Many demons are not innately inhumane. It is just that they were forced to do so by the existence of the demonic gods. In the future, there should be a brand new demon world. This is the condition I promised her back then. You don't have to thank me." Emperor Forsaken and the others abruptly stood up and looked at Xiao Chen, making a request. Those who were originally full of confidence in Xiao Chen started to waver. "What's there to be afraid of? I'm an artifact spirit. To put it nicely, I'm a spirit. To put it bluntly, I'm a slave. In my previous life, I met a good person like Sangmu, and in this life, I met a fool like you. For an artifact spirit, what else is there to pursue?" His face, which always carried a hint of a smile, had a heart that was colder and more ruthless than anyone else. If we besiege him without reason, then he won't be reasonable anymore. Against such an enemy, if he gives up even the slightest bit of his bottom line, then he won't be able to do anything. The price we have to pay is much heavier than we imagined. Xiao Chen hit the nail on the head and pointed out Chu Chaoyun's current situation. 3 days later, the entire Kunlun continent suddenly started shaking for no reason. A figure flew through the air in the boundless starry heavens, standing in the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's residence. Around him were the remaining 2,999 Immortal Lord residences. Xiao Chen did not understand how Xiao Chen's strength improved so quickly. Only after he figured it out would he understand the price he paid. The clash of light and darkness was not something Emperor Wu's body could endure. Not only would it be painful, but it would also leave behind hidden injuries. Such a mysterious phenomenon naturally startled everyone in the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's residence. Chu Chaoyun's expression remained calm. His tone did not contain any emotion. "Everyone, it's time." The mountains shattered, the seas surged, and the rivers flowed in reverse. The mountains shattered, the seas surged, and the rivers flowed in reverse. All sorts of strange things happened because of Xiao Chen. That was the power of light and darkness. Many years ago, Xiao Chen already felt that he would have to fight this person again after the youth competition. Chu Chaoyun smiled faintly and said, "You don't understand the hatred in my heart. I never thought of killing that person. I only wanted to ask him one question. However, if I cannot absorb the luck of the entire Kunlun realm, I will not even be qualified to stand before him." The sky did not differentiate between night and day. Stars twinkled everywhere. Motes of starlight could be seen densely packed in the sky at every moment. Xiao Chen continued, "That is not the main point. Even if I lose, he will not do anything to my family. He was a person who had never been able to accomplish what he had set his mind to. There is a tacit understanding between me and him. There are some things that need not be said." Sometimes, Xiao Chen did not understand. However, after thinking about it, he realized that this might be the only way. Xiao. In the demonic world, Xiaoqin hid behind the demonic god. The cultivators of the Kunlun realm only knew the demonic god and did not know who Chu Chaoyun was. In the Sky Dome realm, given Xiaoqian's fame, no one cared who the person who lost to Xiaoqin was. However, Xiaoqin would not lie. This was especially so for such a matter. Xiaoqin said calmly, 10,000 years ago, the Qing emperor killed the last Tianwu emperor. As a descendant of the Tianwu emperor, he has a duel with me. At that time, I will engage in a battle to the death with him. If I lose, everyone can think of a solution. The sharpness of this small sword pierced their eyes. However, their expressions were filled with excitement and shock. After a while, the white-clad Xiaoqin stood on the cycle throne. He finally saw Chu Chaoyun's face clearly. Xiaoqin said that person's name indifferently. However, the few primes showed confused expressions, they did not have any impression of him. That's not good. Since this person is so strong, let's attack together. Ah! The few primes were greatly startled. To think that Xiaoqin had such a handle on them. Xiaoqin revealed a bitter smile. If Chu Chaoyun were that simple, how could he have reached his current position? Suddenly, a golden light burst forth from the center of the fluorescent sea under Chu Chaoyun's feet. Something seemed like it was about to burst out. Chu Chaoyun was like a clump of divine fire, lighting up the entire starry heavens. Every star gave off light because of him. It was a palm-sized sword with an exquisite design. It gave off a resplendent golden light, giving off a sharpness that made one's skin prickle. Keng Chang. Chu Chaoyun drew the sword and pointed it at Xiaoqin. The legend is actually true. Emperor Forsaken muttered to himself. Clearly, he knew some of the legends about the Tianwu emperor as well. A group of people flew quickly in the starry heavens. Soon, they finally saw Chu Chaoyun in the depths of the starry heavens. There seemed to be a fluorescent sea under his feet. Keng Chang. Xiaoqin drew his saber and clashed with the incoming sword intent. This was a divine item that the Tianwu emperor left behind. As long as Xiaoqin had it, he would not need to take the Kunlun road and could leave this abandoned land. 10,000 years is a cycle. There is only one chance every 10,000 years. Blue Dragon King Xiaoqin, if you do not draw your saber now, when are you going to do so? Only then could Xiaoqin not care about this world at all. Only then could he harden his heart and destroy the entire world just to fulfill his wish. The wager was the entire Kunlun realm. Today, the 3,000 Immortal Lord residences finally merged into one. This affected the entire Kunlun realm. The powerful divine item floated quietly between the two. Its golden light was very tempting. Xiaoqin entered deep thought. It looks like everyone in this world has it hard. In the past, I could not see through Chu Chaoyun. This scene was exactly the same as what Xiaoqin saw in the past. The appearance of the divine item that the Tianwu emperor left behind made this group of primes feel that this matter was very thorny and unusual. The few of them all felt extremely surprised. Worry flashed in Ing Zongtian's eyes. Xiaoqin has really met with an opponent. This person has an aura of primal chaos, one that leads to the peak of the great Tao. The 3,000 lower realms merged under Xiaoqian's feet as he slowly approached the Kunlun realm. In the end, he still could not avoid his fate. In the lunar shadow saber, little Ao Jiao showed a calm expression as she turned into a beam of light and merged with the lunar shadow saber. The people of the Kunlun realm did not recognize the name Chu Chaoyun at all. Let's stop here. After saying that, Xiaoqian's figure flickered. Occasionally, fragments of the stars flew at him, but he easily dodged them. Right. There is no need to talk about morality with such a person. To think that he wants to use the entire Kunlun realm to help him. There is no need to reason with him. Emperor Forsaken and the heaven-punishing corpse god both chose the most direct and effective method. They simply could not believe that such an expert still existed in the world without them knowing about him. However, they had not expected that this day would come in such a manner, using the entire starry heavens as a battlefield. That was the sky dome realm of the 3,000 lower realms. Xiao Chen felt excited. He vaguely guessed that something was about to come out. In that case, we'll listen to you, everyone said helplessly in the end. Why the need to fight so bitterly? You are not in a good state right now. The best solution is to leave the Kunlun realm quickly and break through to the veritable essence stage. Otherwise, if you delay your physical body like this, it will become a hidden injury that will plague you for life. Xiao Chen was the first to speak. How is Len Yu? Like before, Len Yu carried a sword on his back. His eyes flickered with a bright light as though he had been waiting for Xiao Chen for a long time. Emperor Forsaken and the other primes watched from afar. Suddenly, they felt a piercing pain in their eyes. Chapter 1551. The saber was the tyrant of weapons, boundlessly tyrannical. The sword was the ancestor of all weapons, the sharpest. One could not use the edge of the saber to block the other party's sword. Xiao Chen attacked from below. He gently raised his saber and chopped the incoming sword intent in half. This was the boundless starry heavens, dotted with stars and a picturesque heavenly river. This was also the final battlefield of two outstanding talents. Many people did not know what the outcome of this battle would be. Compared to the demonic god's vast invasion, Chu Chaoyun chose to be more hidden. Although the mysterious phenomenon in the Kunlun continent was strange, most cultivators did not know what was going on. Furthermore, they did not know that a battle that would decide their fate was taking place in the depths of the starry heavens. In fact, not many people knew about the name Chu Chaoyun. However, more and more peak cultivators of the Kunlun realm came to know about this battle. The many sovereign martial emperors and primes of the heavenly starry ocean landed beside Zongtian and the others. They looked at the depths of the starry heavens from a great distance and saw two upright figures. They were like two resplendent stars, making the surrounding starlight appear much dimmer, unable to cover up the sharpness of these two. Xiao Chen and Chu Chaoyun both stored up their auras, locking their gazes on each other, not wanting to miss out on any detail. Vaguely, there was an invisible clash between the two of them. This resulted in the divine item that the Tianwu Emperor left buzzing and trembling continuously. Xiao Chen did not dare to attack rashly because he did not have a deep understanding of Chu Chaoyun. He had not fought with Chu Chaoyun for so many years. Xiao Chen did not know Chu Chaoyun's strength or combat style, so he could only wait and see. As the two faced off, their auras soared. Whoosh! The moment their auras reached their peak, Chu Chaoyun made the first move. He thrust his sword forward, gathering all his aura at the tip of his sword. His movements were like flowing water, incredibly smooth. His grasp of timing was very precise. However, the most brilliant thing was his understanding of the sword. The strength of the sword lay in its sharpness. It was indestructible and could break through anything. Chu Chaoyun was able to instantly gather all his aura at the tip of his sword without any gaps. It was sufficient to show that his attainments in the sword Dao had already attained perfection. The strength of the saber lay in its tyranny and violence. However, a tyrannical aura was not something that could be achieved in one go. He needed to keep accumulating, and the more he fought, the stronger he would become. Of course, if the opponent was weaker, he would have the advantage right from the start. There was no need for him to accumulate his strength, so it didn't count. Xiao Chen was the #1 saber cultivator of the current Kunlun sect. He understood this principle better than anyone else. The best choice was to retreat, temporarily avoid the sharp edge, and wait for an opportunity to strike. However, when faced with Chu Chaoyun's most advantageous attack, he absolutely could not retreat. Once he retreated, there would be no chance for him to make a comeback. Even if they were at a disadvantage, they absolutely could not retreat. There was only one word: fight. Before the sword arrived, the sword aura had already arrived. This sharp sword aura blew Xiao Chen's long hair backward. The cold light at the tip of the sword grew closer and closer to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen shouted ferociously and chopped down with his saber. At the crucial moment, his saber coincidentally met the tip of the sword. Chi! The saber and sword clashed, and sparks flew. The two exchanged glances, both seeing the sharp light in each other's eyes. Xiaochen forcefully blocked this thrust. He felt his hand, which held his saber, go slightly numb. Blood seeped out of his palm. Needless to say, he was clearly at a disadvantage in this exchange. In such a situation, Chu Chaoyun clearly held the upper hand. He should not have clashed head-on. I thought that I had already improved very quickly. Unexpectedly, you were still able to keep up with me. Chu Chaoyun, it looks like you have suffered a lot in the past few years, Xiaochen said indifferently. Although he was at a disadvantage, he could not lose his momentum. Chu Chaoyun's lips curled up slightly. He smiled and said, "This is talent. It is not something that can be achieved just by suffering. Take another sword strike from me." Right after Chu Chaoyun spoke, he twisted his wrist slightly. His sword aura did not decrease, continuing to stab at Xiaochen's forehead. At such a close distance, Chu Chaoyun could easily send out a second sword strike. However, Xiaochen would find it difficult to send out another saber strike to block the cold light at the tip of the sword that had yet to fade. Because there was nowhere to store energy, Xiaochen could not execute his saber aura smoothly. It was like an assassin using a dagger to get close to him, preventing him from using a long weapon. Oh no! He cannot dodge this sword strike. Emperor Forsaken, who was watching from a distance, exclaimed. He started to worry for Xiaochen. What an incredible swordsman. It is hard to imagine that the Kunlun realm has such a strong sword Dao expert. Even though Ing Zongtian did not like Chu Chaoyun, he had to acknowledge Chu Chaoyun's attainments in the sword Dao. Xiaochen can only retreat. The heaven-punishing corpse god shook his head slightly. Being at a disadvantage right from the start was not a good sign. Dang! However, to everyone's surprise, Xiaochen blocked this sword strike and still sent out another saber strike. Xiaochen spun around at an unimaginable speed. Then, when he turned around, he sent out a dangerous saber strike. To most people, Xiaochen did not move at all. They only saw a saber light blocking that sword strike in an incredible fashion. After the second sword strike was blocked, the aura gathered at the tip of Chu Chaoyun's sword slowly dispersed. The sharpness of the sword strike was significantly weaker than it was at the start. At this moment, Xiaochen finally turned the disadvantageous situation into a draw. Metallic clangs rang out continuously. Before the sword strike faded completely, Chu Chaoyun chose to attack quickly. Sword images filled the sky like a storm, charging at Xiaochen. Xiaochen fought steadily, countering the moves as they came. In just a few breaths, the two exchanged 100 moves. A strong saber intent and sword intent spread out continuously as the saber and sword clashed. The saber intent turned into resplendent light that could be seen clearly from far away. The metallic clangs of the saber and sword clashing formed a storm-like melody. It stirred the heart and made one's blood surge. This was the most exciting melody in the world. As the saber and sword clashed, the instant the two brushed past each other, a mysterious phenomenon appeared behind them. A flawless moon appeared behind Xiaochen. Under the moon was a vast sea with dragons hidden in the water. A powerful imperial city stood behind Chu Chaoyun. The imperial banners fluttered on the city walls, commanding the world. The two were still evenly matched. Neither side showed any signs of being at a disadvantage. The two brushed past each other. The probing had already ended. Next, it was time to fight to the death with full power. Dao! Xiaochen shouted, and Dao Might appeared. A Dao disc appeared behind him, giving off a faint light. Carrying a boundless Dao Might, Xiaochen soared into the air and took the initiative to hack down with his saber. Dao! Who knew? Chu Chaoyun shouted, and a Dao disc appeared behind him as well. He had also comprehended the great Dao energy of the sword Dao and was not much weaker than Xiaochen. The saber and sword clashed in the air again. Blood leaked out of the two's mouths as they looked at each other in surprise. Xiaochen spun around, and the Taiji saber domain appeared. His body hid in the Taiji saber domain. Holding his saber, he charged over once more. The yin and yang energies in the Taiji diagram under Xiao Chen's feet each turned into a saber dragon. One was bright and one was dark, appearing and disappearing. Chu Chaoyun pushed off with his feet, and light and darkness flickered around his body, forming a black and white sword domain. The two started fighting again. The Taiji saber domain and the black and white sword domain merged, clashing endlessly, clashing intensely. They were like two huge, invisible gears that merged together but spun in different directions. Ka! 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 The sounds of the clash shook the air. Everyone who heard it felt their hearts tremble, reaching deep into their souls. These two are truly evenly matched. With their cultivation of the saber and the sword, it is hard to tell who is stronger. Indeed, it is hard to say who will win and who will lose in this battle. I really wonder, where did this Chu Chaoyun suddenly come from? He is so inconceivably strong. He is the Tianwu Emperor's descendant. Everything is easy to explain. Don't forget, 10,000 years ago, it was the last Tianwu Emperor who severely injured the Qing Emperor, giving the Thunder King the opportunity to sneak attack. The breathtaking battle in the distance deeply shocked all the spectating primes and sovereign martial emperors. Be it Xiao Chen or Chu Chaoyun, their attainments in the way of the saber and the sword far surpassed that of their peers in the Kunlun realm. The exquisite martial techniques they displayed already baffled some of the primes, who could not understand their true profoundness. Chapter 1552. Up in the starry heavens, the battle between Xiao Chen and Chu Chaoyun grew increasingly intense. The Taiji saber domain and the black and white sword domain layered over each other. Countless sabers and swords made of light soared up from the overlapping domains. The two exchanged 1,000 moves, but neither managed to gain a clear advantage. As the two exchanged attacks, they brought out the advantages of the saber Dao and the sword Dao to their fullest. Both sides had reached the peak of their respective saber Dao and sword Dao in the Kunlun realm. They were stuck at the same bottleneck. This was due to the Kunlun realm's status, which could not compare to the outside world. If the two went to the outside world, their vast accumulations would allow them to quickly break through their respective bottlenecks. However, right now, it was clear that the two could not break through their bottlenecks. Just by relying on their saber techniques and sword techniques, it would be hard to determine a victor. Light and darkness fusion. Yin and yang as one. Chu Chaoyun shouted, and the two extreme energies merged in the black and white sword domain. Suddenly, his body burst forth with alternating black and white light. This looked extremely strange. A sword light flashed as it shot towards Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen did not show any weakness. The Taiji saber domain under his feet quickly merged with the two saber dragons, one bright and one dark. The saber dragons coiled around the saber and blocked the sword light of the other party's black and white sword domain. Boom! The two great killing moves clashed. It was like a star exploding, forming a horrifying shock wave that surged out. Xiao Chen quickly retreated. However, the shock wave still struck him, causing him to vomit a mouthful of blood. Then, he pushed off a meteor and stood firmly. However, Chu Chaoyun was more severely injured than Xiao Chen. His long hair was disheveled, and saber wounds covered his body. Occasionally, black qi poured out to heal these saber wounds. However, its recovery speed could not compare to Xiao Chen's Azure Dragon War body, it was slightly inferior. Xiao Chen raised his head and looked at the other party. Then, he said indifferently, "It looks like your physical body is really your burden." Burden? A strange look flashed in Chu Chaoyun's eyes. He did not deny it or admit it. Perhaps. However, this will not stop me from defeating you. The limitless sword Dao, sword traversing the sky. Chu Chaoyun also walked a different path. Unlike Xiao Chen's flawless saber Dao, his limitless sword Dao was extremely pure. The so-called Wuji was boundless and limitless. It implied that his sword Dao was boundless and endless. With this sword Dao as the core, he also created his own limitless sword technique. One sword across the sky, this was the first move of the limitless sword technique. With a flash of sword light, Chu Chaoyun charged over with his sword in hand. When the sword was drawn, it locked down the 9 heavens and completely froze the space. In an instant, Xiaochen felt that the space around him had been locked by a sword aura. Imperceptibly, it formed a prison that locked him up and prevented him from moving. Breaking. Flawless saber technique, void breaking stance. After executing the first move of the flawless saber technique, Xiaochen turned the tables and suddenly vanished. When Xiaochen reappeared, he released a resplendent saber light from his body, tearing through the air. Limitless sword Dao, 1000 turns and 100 turns. Chu Chaoyun quickly changed his move, and his figure turned blurry. The sword light was ethereal and formless. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense could not immediately lock onto the other party, much less make a move. When looking around, it looked like the other party's body was floating in a winding corridor, crisscrossing each other, creating a sense of spatial confusion. Limitless sword Dao, 10,000 swords become one. Chu Chaoyun took advantage of the moment when Xiao Chen's aura was exhausted and his move was already over to charge back with his sword. After thousands of turns, the countless figures merged and turned into a sharp sword stabbing at Xiao Chen. This sword strike was too fast, too ruthless, and too accurate. Xiao Chen did not have time to change his move. He could only hold his saber horizontally in front of him to block this sword strike. Dang! Amid the clanging sounds, Xiao Chen nearly lost his grip on his saber, forcing him to retreat quickly. No matter how strong your physical body is, if you keep getting beaten up, you can only lose. Chu Chaoyun smiled faintly. Then, he took advantage of Xiao Chen's mistake and chased after him while holding his sword. The sword move was sharp and indestructible. The starry sword light flew at Xiao Chen like a torrential storm. Ding! Ding! Dang! They were like raindrops landing on the ground, giving off a continuous, melodious sound. With one mistake, Xiao Chen was pushed back again and again. Countless stars flashed by the two. The stars did not move, but the two were too fast. The stars looked like reflections, flashing rapidly. Chu Chaoyun's sword moves became increasingly ruthless. He only had one chance. He could not give Xiao Chen a chance to turn things around. Otherwise, his momentum would plummet, and his sword would lose its sharpness. Xiao Chen remained calm, not flustered at all. Right now, he had many ways to counter the other party. However, for some reason, he did not really want to do so. Just based on the saber and the sword, the two should be evenly matched. Their attainments were about the same. It all depended on who made the first mistake. However, with other factors, Xiao Chen held too much of an advantage over Chu Chaoyun. Be it the Ice Blood Lightning Dragon, the Dragon Blood Soul Breaking Finger, Dermic World, or the Divine Lightning Eye, they could all allow Xiao Chen to turn things around in an instant. Up until now, Xiao Chen had thoroughly figured out his opponent's strength. Chu Chaoyun's cultivation was at peak prime. However, he also cultivated the demonic race's cultivation techniques. Hence, he could contend with Xiao Chen alone. Chu Chaoyun's sword skills were about the same as Xiao Chen's saber skills. It was hard to say who was superior. Chu Chaoyun's trump card was the state of primal chaos, a state even stronger than the state of cycle. Before primal chaos split, there was no day or night. There was no time, no space, and no cycle. However, from the very start, Xiao Chen discovered that the merger of light and darkness was not perfect. The reason was that Chu Chaoyun's state of light and state of darkness needed to be perfected. Primal chaos was not as simple as light and darkness. He had forcefully fused them completely by relying on his own willpower. Perhaps that willpower was his greatest trump card. It could allow him to go further and fly higher. Of course, that was under the condition that he could leave the Kunlun realm. However, right now, Chu Chaoyun forcefully raised himself to a higher level. Compared to Xiao Chen, who fought steadily, advancing step by step, Chu Chaoyun was like a tall, dangerous building. Since Xiao Chen knows his own situation, why does he still want to fight me? Whoosh! As Xiao Chen pondered, he became distracted. Then, Chu Chaoyun stabbed his sword into Xiao Chen's chest. A black and white light flowed out of the sword and quickly entered Xiao Chen's body. The muscles and bones around Xiao Chen's wound immediately rotted. Blue Dragon King, you are distracted, Chu Chaoyun said indifferently as he looked at Xiao Chen's chest. Xiao Chen nodded and said, I am indeed distracted. I just figured out why you insisted on fighting me. Xiao Chen nodded and said, I was indeed distracted. I just figured out why you insisted on fighting me. A smile appeared on Chu Chaoyun's face as he said calmly, no one has ever been able to guess my thoughts. Very well. Before I kill you, let me hear you out. If you guessed correctly, I will not stab you with this sword. The tip of the sword stabbed into Xiao Chen's body pressed against Xiao Chen's chest, releasing strands of black sword qi. Strands of black sword qi surged out from the tip of the sword and wrapped around Xiao Chen's chest. As long as Chu Chaoyun wanted to, he could crush Xiao Chen's heart at any time. Do you really want to say it? I feel that it is better to prove it with my actions. Chu Chaoyun was slightly stunned. Before he could react, he saw 3 purple petals spinning in his eyes. When the petals layered over each other, the power of the tribulation lightning instantly descended. Chu Chaoyun was immediately blasted away. His clothes were tattered, and electricity flickered all over his body. Ice Blood Lightning Dragon. A berserk tricolor dragon appeared in Xiao Chen's left palm. As the wind blew, it charged at Chu Chaoyun, who was injured by the tribulation lightning. Pu Ci. Chu Chaoyun vomited a mouthful of blood on the spot. His internal organs ruptured, and he fell weakly onto a small planet. It was not over yet. Xiao Chen's body trembled slightly as he executed Dermic World. Then, his huge body stomped on the small planet. Rumble. The small planet shattered on the spot. Chu Chaoyun was in a sorry state. All the bones in his body were shattered, and he no longer had any combat prowess. Chu Chaoyun lay on a rather large piece of the small planet. Right now, he did not even have the strength to stand up. Dermic World vanished, and Xiao Chen pulled out the sword at his chest and casually tossed it aside. Xiao Chen's figure flashed, and he landed on the asteroid. Then, he looked at Chu Chaoyun coldly and asked, Am I right? Chapter 1553. On the shattered meteor, Xiao Chen looked at Chu Chaoyun and said indifferently, You should know my strength. Before I entered the Blue Dragon Palace, I might not be as strong as you. However, after I entered the Blue Dragon Palace and obtained the bloodline inheritance, I broke through the shackles of Prime. No one in the Kunlun realm is a match for me. Since a long time ago, you said that there would be a battle between you and me. Even though you knew that you were no longer as strong as me, you stubbornly insisted on fighting me. In the past, I could not understand it. Just now, I finally understood why. In the end, deep in your heart. In the end, you were still unwilling to destroy the entire Kunlun realm to fulfill your wish. If you really wanted to achieve your goal, the battle between me and the demonic god would have been your best opportunity. However, you did not. This means that from the very start, your greatest goal was not to destroy the Kunlun realm. What are you trying to do? You are seeking death. Towards the end, Xiao Chen's voice became heavier as he enunciated every word. When Chu Chaoyun heard that, he was slightly stunned. Then, he smiled and said, You are right. Do it, then. Borrow your hands to kill me. That way, I will feel more at ease and not feel too guilty toward those remnant elders of the dynasty. Xiao Chen did not make a move. He said indifferently, However, I do not understand why you seek death so much. Chu Chaoyun remained expressionless, his eyes numb. He said calmly, I'm tired. Do it. I have been waiting for this day for a long time already. I can only say that Xiao Chen, you have not disappointed me. Xiao Chen looked at Chu Chaoyun, feeling that he was very pitiful. Who could avoid death in this world? However, some people were not born to live but to seek death. You seek death wholeheartedly and have no regrets. Regrets? None. After I merged the 3,000 lower realms, no one above Emperor Wu can enter. Only the people inside can come out. The people outside cannot enter. The Tianwu dynasty is already established. Those remnant elders like to dream, so I will give them a dream. I've already done what I promised Leng Yu. He had also fulfilled the dying wish of the last Tianwu emperor, the Tianwu emperor, to fight with you. I, Chu Chaoyun, have nothing to regret. Seeing the other party's calm expression, Xiao Qin said indifferently, you are lying. Do you not want to leave and ask the first-generation Tianwu emperor why he abandoned you? Hearing this, Chu Chaoyun smiled and said, to be honest, this is the reason I am most unwilling to live. You don't know how powerful he is, and you don't know how terrifying his background is. After pausing for a while, Chu Chaoyun revealed a self-mocking expression. He was not a person of the Kunlun realm in the first place. The establishment of the Tianwu dynasty was his springboard to leave the Kunlun realm. He has never cared about the survival of the Tianwu dynasty. They are just tools for him. Xiao Qin felt somewhat astonished. He had not expected the Tianwu emperor to have such a secret. Send me on my way. I no longer have any regrets. I am really tired, Chu Chaoyun said again, getting Xiao Qin to make a move. Xiao Qin remained silent for a long time. Just as Chu Chaoyun gave up and prepared to make a move himself, a force suddenly restricted his body. It was Xiao Qin. He made a move, but he did not kill Chu Chaoyun. Instead, he treated his injuries. Xiao Qin was a prime in the first place. His injuries recovered very quickly. With the help of an external force, his recovery was even faster. Just as Chu Chaoyun's injuries were about to recover, Xiao Qin waved his hand, and the divine item that the Tianwu emperor left behind appeared in his hand. Chu Chaoyun's expression changed slightly. What are you trying to do? Nothing much. I'm just sending you out of this abandoned land. There are some things that you have to ask personally. When you are outside and truly have no regrets, we can have a good fight. In this life, one cannot live for others. Chu Chaoyun, don't disappoint me. I do not have many true opponents in this life. Xiao Qin controlled Chu Chaoyun and got him to activate the divine item. The palm-sized sword immediately merged with Chu Chaoyun's body. A vigorous energy started to erupt in Chu Chaoyun's body. His clothes fluttered about, and he had a malevolent expression. Clearly, he was in pain. Black lines appeared on Chu Chaoyun's face, looking like tentacles about to come out. These were the side effects of the clash of light and darkness. Xiao! A sharp sword light shot out from Chu Chaoyun's body. Caught off guard, Xiao Qin went flying. The divine item slowly melted in Chu Chaoyun's body, suppressing the powers of darkness and light. Chu Chaoyun soared into the air, and a melodious sword hum came from his body. With a buzz, he broke the barrier of a world. Chu Chaoyun turned into a resplendent light, lighting up the entire boundless starry heavens. Boundless radiance radiated out from Chu Chaoyun's body. As the light spread out, all the stars in the starry heavens dimmed. At this moment, all the cultivators in the Kunlun continent saw a strange scene. In the pitch-black sky, only a resplendent star was shining brightly. Chu Chaoyun's body rose continuously. It felt like the entire world was getting further and further away from him. At this moment, the situation was already set. The restriction that Xiao Qin left in Chu Chaoyun's body no longer existed. However, Chu Chaoyun could not change the situation of being brought out of this world by the divine item. Chu Chaoyun searched for Xiao Chen's figure in the pitch-black space. Xiao Chen's figure and appearance slowly turned blurry in his vision. In life, one cannot always live for others, Chu Chaoyun muttered to himself, mulling over Xiao Chen's words. In hindsight, Chu Chaoyun seemed to be in control of the situation at all times, devising strategies. Everything, no matter how big or small, was under his control. Everything went according to his plans. However, in this life, Chu Chaoyun indeed lived only for others. He lived for the dying wishes of the last Tianwu emperor, for the remnant elders of the dynasty. It seemed like he never truly lived for himself. Shao Chen, I promise you. When I have no regrets, I will truly fight you again. After making up his mind, a brilliant light flashed in Chu Chaoyun's eyes. Then, he vanished from this starry heavens, leaving this abandoned land. The instant Chu Chaoyun left, the starry heavens returned to normal. The stars filling the sky lit up one by one, and the night returned to calm. However, just at this moment, the heavenly Tao mercilessly erased all traces of Chu Chaoyun's existence in this world. Many of the primes and martial emperors watching the battle showed confused expressions, not knowing what happened. Only Shao Chen failed again when the heavenly Tao tried to erase all memories of Chu Chaoyun from his mind. This was the same as when the heavenly Tao tried to erase all memories of Lu Riyue from Shao Chen's mind after Lu Riyue left, it failed again. Everyone forgot about Chu Chaoyun's existence. Everything related to him was erased without a trace. It was like this person had never existed in the first place. The heavenly Tao was merciless. No wonder everyone questioned whether there was a peak above prime. Whoosh! 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 The various primes and sovereign martial emperors found Shao Chen and quickly asked him what happened. Shao Chen wanted to explain. However, the moment he opened his mouth, he felt his entire body tremble. Countless strands of strange killing intent descended from the sky, firmly locking down on him. If he spoke, he would definitely be killed. Shao Chen smiled bitterly. The heavenly Tao was not just merciless, it was simply heartless. Since that was the case, there was no need to explain. Shao Chen casually brushed it off. Shao Chen glanced in the direction where Chu Chaoyun had disappeared before turning around and flying back to the Kunlun continent. 3 months later, the Blue Dragon Totem was completed. Then, Shao Chen visited all his friends in the Kunlun realm. This was the last time he met with everyone before he left. His first senior sister, Bai, Wu Xiaotian, Ying Zongtian, Yu Bingyun, he visited all his friends that he had interacted with before. The Deep Abyss demonic world was Shao Chen's final stop. That was where he met the only demon lord of the demonic world, Leng Yu. There were many places he could not bear to part with and many people he could not forget. However, he still had to leave the Kunlun realm in the end. It was just like what he said to Chu Chaoyun. There were many things that he had to do personally. No matter what Lu Riyue's current situation was, at the very least, in Shao Chen's heart, his former master was the person he loved the most in his life. Many words lingered in his ears like it was yesterday. Even if Shao Chen hid his feelings in the depths of his heart forever, not touching them or thinking about them, that person was irreplaceable in his heart. This was an undeniable fact. Before Shao Chen left, he entered the Blue Dragon Palace one last time. Big Brother Dragon and the other item spirits had been waiting for a long time already. Chapter 1554. You are leaving. The old dragon horse was the first to speak, guessing Shao Chen's purpose in coming. Shao Chen nodded. He had already done what he needed to do and met all the people he needed to meet. He needed to leave the Kunlun realm. Be it to search for Lu Riyue or to climb to the peak of the martial Tao, he needed to leave this abandoned land. Big Brother Dragon Horse and the others were not surprised. However, there were some things that needed to be explained. The young girl behind him took out a spatial ring. Shao Chen received it and sent in his spiritual sense. He discovered that it contained crystal stones flickering with a blue light, looking very crystalline. Such crystals felt like they had the aura of primordial energy. However, they were purer and more condensed. What is this? Shao Chen asked as he withdrew his spiritual sense and looked at the young woman. I can feel the presence of primordial energy in this. However, it is much purer. The young woman explained, this is spirit jade, a natural ore in the outside world. Cultivators use this to trade. The so-called primordial energy of the Kunlun realm is actually innate spiritual energy in the outside world. When cultivators reach the innate realm, they can absorb it. Spirit jade grows underground. It takes hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years for a spirit jade vein to form. After such a long time of accumulation, the spiritual energy in the spirit jade is naturally much purer than the innate spiritual energy in the world. Big Brother Dragon Horse continued, there are about 2 million spirit jades in this spatial ring. The blue dragon bloodline declined, so I can only give you this much. The rest is to maintain the operation of the Blue Dragon Palace. Xiaoqin put away the spatial ring and thanked the old man. Big Brother Dragon, you are too polite. In reality, Big Brother Dragon Horse was indeed too polite. After Xiaoqin left, he would understand how precious spirit jades were. Furthermore, what Big Brother Dragon Horse gave Xiaoqin were all high-quality superior-grade spirit jades. The azure-clad man stepped forward and handed an ancient book to Xiaoqin. He said, "This is the Book of the Epochs. Most sects in the outside world give it to their disciples. Keep it well. It introduces the various things of the martial epoch, such as what cultivation realms there are after the veritable essence realm. There are many factions in the martial epoch. Some of the larger factions and sects have records of them." Xiaoqin took it and casually flipped through a few pages. It was a simplified version of an encyclopedia. Although it was not a secret manual, it was the most suitable for him at the moment. After leaving the Kunlun realm, he would not be clueless. Next, the artifact spirits took out some more precious personal items and left them to Xiaoqin. They were all Xian weapons used to save Xiaoqin's life at a critical moment. Finally, the old dragon horse handed a jade pendant to Xiaoqin to wear. As he placed the jade pendant on his chest, an ice-cold aura flowed out of the jade pendant and poured into Xiaoqin's body. Xiaoqin immediately felt a lot better, as his aura was greatly suppressed. On the surface of the jade pendant was an ancient Buddha sitting on a lotus platform with a serene expression. On the back were the words Jingxin. This was originally a Buddhist amulet. Later, someone polished it into jade. Although its shape changed, its effects remained the same. It can calm the mind and calm the heart. Of course, the most important thing is that it withdraws its aura. It can reduce the Black Lotus Seal's aura to the minimum. The Dragon Horse Big Brother had put in a lot of effort. In reality, he was the one who carved the original Buddhist amulet. For the sake of helping Xiaoqin suppress the Black Lotus Seal, the Dragon Horse Big Brother strengthened the effect of the jade pendant's aura withdrawing. However, you have to remember that this jade pendant cannot completely suppress the Black Lotus Seal. You still have to be careful. When Xiaoqin felt the Dragon King's concern, he thanked him solemnly. This could be considered to have resolved his greatest hidden danger. Thinking about what the Thunder King said before he died, Xiaoqin could not truly feel at ease leaving the Kunlun realm. If the Black Lotus Church surrounded Xiaoqin the moment he left, that would be too unjust. I would like to ask Big Brother Dragon, where does the White Dragon race stay? Xiaoqin had not forgotten his greatest purpose in coming to the Blue Dragon Palace. The Dragon Horse Big Brother replied sullenly, "That is simple. Just go out and ask around, and you will know. However, I believe that the person you are looking for will not be in the White Dragon race's territory. Who would be willing to pay such a high price to pull your friend out of the abandoned land? There is only one reason. Your friend's bloodline is extremely special and has great potential. Such a genius would normally be in Ancestor Dragon City. That is where the demonic geniuses of the various dragon race bloodlines gather. The resources there are the most, and the competition is the most intense." Ancestor Dragon City, Xiaoqin thought to himself, it looks like Lu Ryue is most likely in this Ancestor Dragon City. As for where Ancestor Dragon City was, Xiaoqin did not ask. He knew nothing about the outside world. Even if he told Xiaoqin, it would be hard for him to understand. Now that he knew the name, he would just ask around in the future. "Seniors, Xiaoqin will take his leave first. I will leave the Kunlun Realm's Dragon's Gate to you." Xiaoqin walked to the palace doors and performed a cupped fist salute. The Dragon Horse Big Brother smiled and said, "Don't worry. I think that Las Mo Chen will be qualified to push open the palace doors soon. The Dragon's Gate's recovery will be faster than you think. Take care on your journey." The group sent off Xiao Chen with their eyes, feeling somewhat regretful in their hearts. Xiao Chen carried their expectations. Only when Xiao Chen became the Dragon Emperor would the Blue Dragon bloodline truly flourish. However, to become the Dragon Emperor, Xiao Chen would have to face not only the various demonic geniuses and geniuses of the dragon race but also the inheritors of the other great desolate 100 races and the many ancient holy lands. The pressure of such competition was much greater than in the Kunlun realm. Once Xiao Chen left this Kunlun realm, he would welcome the entire martial epoch. The abandoned land of the thousands of great realms was not even a drop in the ocean. At the foot of Kunlun Mountain, Yingzongtian, Emperor Forsaken, and the other primes and sovereign martial emperors of the Kunlun realm were waiting. When Xiao Chen's good friends learned that Xiao Chen was coming to challenge the Kunlun Road, they had been waiting for him for a long time to send him off. Come, look. The Blue Dragon King is here. As the sun set, a white figure flew towards the foot of the mountain at lightning speed. This was Xiao Chen, who had come out of the Blue Dragon Palace. Little brother Xiao Chen, this Kunlun Road has always been known as the Road to Death. For several tens of thousands of years, no one in the Kunlun realm has dared to challenge it. Today, it all depends on you. Yingzongtian glanced at the people at the side before turning his head to speak to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen took out a jade strip and handed it to Yingzongtian. This jade strip contains a strand of my will, a tenth of my strength. If I die, this jade strip will shatter. If I do not die, the will in the jade strip will grow stronger as my main body grows stronger. Yingzongtian put away the jade strip and said, "Take care of yourself. I hope that you can make a trip back while I am alive. Tell Big Brother what the outside world is like." Xiao Chen said seriously, "I definitely will." After a simple exchange with the people he was familiar with, Xiao Chen stepped onto the Kunlun Road alone, heading for the unknown world. As the heaven-punishing corpse god watched Xiao Chen's back, he muttered, "I wonder if he can succeed or not. After all, this is the Kunlun Road." There were too many legends about the Kunlun Road. No matter how strong Xiao Chen was, everyone still worried for him. The Kunlun Palace's palace master said, "Don't worry. It will be much easier for Xiao Chen to clear this Kunlun Road than we expected. He has been suppressing his strength all this while. When he reaches the Kunlun Road, he will not have to continue suppressing it." When everyone heard this, they were startled. Right now, Xiao Chen's strength was already very horrifying. Unexpectedly, this was still not Xiao Chen's limit. On the mountain path, Xiao Chen, who was about to enter the clouds, suddenly turned around. His gaze landed on Bai, Mo Chen, first senior sister, and Yu Bingyun. "Sorry, I finally have some free time, and now I have to leave alone again." Xiao Chen was not a heartless person. He and Bai had depended on each other for many years, and their relationship was the deepest. First senior sister was the person who took care of him the most since he came to the Kunlun realm. Mo Chen established the Dragon's Gate and helped him the most. Yu Bingyun was someone who had gone through thick and thin with him, a confidant who had gone through life and death with him. Xiao Chen could not bear to part with each of them. He swore to himself that he would return to the Kunlun realm one day. Not for himself but for these people that he could not bear to part with. Chapter 1555. The main peak of Kunlun Mountain towered into the clouds. No one knew what lay beyond the summit. They only knew that it was a path to heaven, a path that led to the outside world, a path to escape this abandoned land. Since ancient times, there had been too many legends about the path to heaven. However, no matter how they spread, there was not much useful information. Xiao Chen's figure entered the clouds, completely vanishing from everyone's sight. The instant he passed through the clouds, Xiao Chen's body felt relaxed for some reason. It was like the restrictions he was born with in his body disappeared. Xiao Chen understood that the heavenly Tao could no longer affect this place. The laws could no longer restrict him. After calming himself, Xiao Chen continued forward. The mountain path was rugged. Slowly, the environment on both sides changed at some point in time. The clouds were no longer there. Both sides were empty. There were many spatial storms in the empty space. When the countless spatial shards blew by, they flew around like shards of glass. As Xiaochen walked on the mountain path, he felt the might of the spatial shards. He no longer dared to underestimate them, so he carefully avoided these spatial shards. The spatial shards here were on a completely different level from those in the Kunlun realm. The space here was clearly of a higher level. For example, it was like the difference between the Sky Dome realm and the Kunlun realm. This place should be a transition point between the Kunlun realm and the outside world. The space in the outside world should be of a higher level. Earlier, a spatial shard passed by Xiaochen. He had been somewhat careless. Who could have imagined that it would leave a 1 centimeter deep wound when it passed by him? It was very scary. Xiaochen looked at the summit. He did not know how long he would have to walk to the peak. Furthermore, he did not dare to fly here. As he walked, the danger of getting cut by the spatial shards would increase. If he were unlucky and got swallowed up by a spatial storm, Xiaochen did not dare to imagine that scene. No wonder this Kunlun road was also known as a dead end. Clenching his teeth, Xiaochen walked forward step by step, carefully avoiding the spatial shards. If he could not avoid them, he would use his saber to chop them apart. As the top bladesman of the Kunlun realm, Xiaochen's skills with the saber had already reached great heights. Sometimes, when he could not chop the spatial shards apart, he would use force to break them. Oh no! A spatial storm passed above Xiaochen without any warning. A strong suction pulled his body down. Blue Dragon Divine Wings. Greatly startled, Xiaochen quickly unfurled his Blue Dragon Divine Wings and struggled against the suction of the spatial storm. Xiaochen's body spun continuously under the spatial storm, unable to control it. In the spatial storm, many spatial shards flew over. Fortunately, Xiaochen's movement technique, the fish dragon art, was very proficient in dodging over a short distance. Otherwise, even if they weren't pulled into the storm, they would be cut into pieces by the spatial fragments. When the spatial storm drifted away from his head, his body landed on the ground. Ka-xie. It sounded like something had shattered. The startled Xiaochen looked down and saw a rotting corpse. He did not know how long it had been there. His original sovereign body had already completely decayed, and he crushed it with a single stomp when he landed. Beside his palm, there was a rusty broken knife. "I'm sorry, Senior. It was unintentional," Xiaochen said softly. This was a senior bladesman whom he had accidentally crushed. For this senior to be able to leave a corpse on the Kunlun road and not dismembered on the spot, he must have been a famous person in the Kunlun realm. Sighing, Xiaochen continued on his way. The rest of the road was littered with skeletons. Every short distance they walked, they would see a skeleton. The pressure on the mountain increased. Slowly, it became difficult to even lift one's feet. However, there was still a long distance to the top. Suddenly, he realized that it had been a long time since he had seen any corpses. Xiaochen came to his senses and stopped in his tracks. Why weren't there any corpses? Clearly, this was a forbidden zone. Most of the people who charged into this place didn't leave behind any corpses. Hu Qi. Suddenly, 3 spatial storms blew over from above. Xiaochen paled slightly. Before Xiaochen could react, he was lifted into the air, flying towards the center of the 3 spatial storms. Xiaochen struggled with all his might. At the same time, he circulated his vital qi. Strands of dragon-shaped energy moved around and gathered into 2 cauldrons. With a loud shout, Xiaochen punched the air 3 times. Each punch boomed like thunder. He used the huge rebound to push himself back. As for the spatial shards flying over, Xiaochen simply ignored them. He could only let these blind shards fly past his body. After punching 10 times, Xiaochen, who had exhausted all his vital qi, finally landed on the ground. Xiaochen's body was covered in wounds, dripping with blood. His white robes were dyed scarlet. His injuries and fatigue prevented Xiaochen from continuing forward. He could only stop to rest and recover from his injuries, recuperating his vital qi. Even when resting, Xiaochen had to be careful. He looked around and paid attention at all times, unable to relax. This was because the spatial storms here did not follow any pattern. It looked like the summit was less than a kilometer away. However, for some reason, Xiaochen felt that it was a very, very distant place. After that, with every step he took, he would experience 3, even 4, spatial storms. Toward the end, there would be even more terrifying spatial tears. These spatial tears would close instantly. If he was not careful and got pulled in, he did not know when he would come out again. It might be 100 years later, or it might be a lifetime. On this 1-kilometer path, Xiaochen took 3 steps forward and took 1 step back. He even had to rest midway, walking for more than 40 days. After almost 1.5 months, he finally arrived at the summit. This period of time was truly a nightmare. In the future, Xiaochen would not want to recall this experience. It was too torturous. Xiaochen turned his head back and looked at the Kunlun road, entering deep thought. Even Xiaochen was in such a sorry state. If the primes of the Kunlun realm wanted to take this path, they would die for sure. This path should not be so difficult. It was practically a path of death. Something must have happened, resulting in such difficulty. Perhaps the people of the Black Lotus Church really did something to it. Xiaochen withdrew his gaze. There was no longer any path ahead. He looked up and saw a huge spatial whirlpool in the distant sky. Is this the spatial tunnel to leave the Kunlun realm? Xiaochen muttered to himself, looking travel-worn as he looked at that spatial whirlpool. Go! Xiaochen pushed off the ground and did not hesitate to fly towards that spatial whirlpool. At this final step, it was much safer. He did not run into any trouble as he ascended. However, just as Xiaochen was about to reach the spatial whirlpool, something strange happened. Black lotus flowers flew out of the spatial whirlpool and quickly formed a huge hand that smashed at Xiaochen. A strong force gathered in the palm. When the pressure pressed down, Xiaochen felt like he was suffocating. Sharp spirit finger. With this finger, Xiaochen retreated quickly. Then, cracks appeared in that huge black palm. The cracks quickly mended, but the palm continued to descend on him, wanting to squash him to death. Flawless saber technique, cloud-reaching stance. Xiaochen did not hesitate to execute the flawless saber technique's cloud-reaching stance. Lofty aspirations surged in Xiaochen's chest. His blood surged as he soared into the sky. Ka-xie. The saber struck that huge palm, and cracks spread out again. Ice Blood Lightning Dragon. Ice attributed and lightning attributed energies merged in Xiaochen's left palm. A drop of blood dripped from his palm, and a berserk tricolor dragon appeared. Then, the wind blew and the huge palm ferociously smashed into it. After a series of strikes, the huge black palm suddenly scattered, turning into many lotus flowers drifting in the air. Xiaochen's heart sank. To think that the lotus flowers were not destroyed and still showed signs of regathering. However, the speed of regathering was extremely slow. Xiaochen thought to himself, indeed, the Black Lotus Church did something. Aside from me, no one in the Kunlun realm can block that earlier strike. Xiaochen wanted to completely destroy these lotus flowers. However, after trying a few times, he discovered that after the lotus flowers shattered, they would still split into countless lotus flowers. This was very similar to the thunder hell that the Thunder King once executed when he possessed the demonic god. This would only slow down the speed of the black lotus flowers regathering. It would not be of much use. Never mind. I'll enter the spatial whirlpool first. Xiaochen shook his head and chose to give up. Then, his figure flashed into the spatial whirlpool. Chapter 1556. As his body entered the spatial whirlpool, Xiaochen looked forward. There was only one path in the whirlpool. At the end of the tunnel, a faint light could be seen. After testing it out, Xiaochen discovered that it was very easy to move forward. However, when he moved backward, it felt like the entire world was moving backward. He had only experienced this feeling when he was reversing time and space. Xiaoqin entered deep thought. No wonder people said that it was much more difficult for the people of the outside world to enter than for the people of the Kunlun realm to leave. The cultivators of the Kunlun realm only had to deal with those spatial shards and spatial storms. To the experts of the outside world, their realms far surpassed that of a supreme being, so they did not fear the spatial storms at all. However, every step they took in the passageway of the spatial vortex was equivalent to reversing time and space. Although the passageway was not long, it was enough to make one suffer. Furthermore, according to the old dragon horse, the stronger one was, the greater the obstacles one would encounter. Xiaoqin was a little worried about what he would do when he returned in the future. However, at this point, it was useless to think about these things. He could only shake his head and brace himself to move forward. Fortunately, the Black Lotus Church did not follow up on this spatial passageway. It would be extremely difficult for the other party to tamper with this spatial passageway. The moment Xiaoqin stepped out of the spatial vortex, he looked back and discovered the place he had come from. It was a black whirlpool. The entrance of the whirlpool was like the mouth of a monster. Xiaoqin looked around. This place was the resplendent starry heavens, boundless and boundless. He did not see the Kunlun continent. Xiaoqin thought for a while. It looked like the Kunlun realm was just a drop in the ocean of this universe, truly an abandoned land. After sensing for a while, Xiaoqin found that this starry heavens was very different from the Kunlun realms. Firstly, the level of space was different. Here, one would not be as free as in the starry heavens of the Kunlun realm. He had to constantly consume true essence to maintain himself in the starry sky and not drift away. The spatial pressure was immense, and his speed and strength were greatly restricted. Xiaoqin flipped his hand, and the cycle throne appeared. Then, he gently landed and sat on it. 7 divine weapons appeared, each guarding a direction, forming a simple formation. Kicking Xiaoqin, he resisted the pressure from the starry sky. Sitting on the throne, Xiaoqin began to study the book of the epochs that the azure-clothed man had left him. He had to understand the outside world as soon as possible. Book of the Epochs, the end of the Great Desolate Era. The Great Desolate Continent shattered into countless fragments, and the world entered the Epoch Era. The first sentence introduced the origin of the epoch, and it immediately drew Xiaoqin's attention. There was a lot of novel knowledge that Xiaoqin had never come into contact with before. It broadened his horizons and allowed him to have a new understanding of the universe. In the beginning, the universe was chaotic. There was no heaven and earth. Only then did the heavens and earth split apart, and only then did the boundless great wasteland continent come into existence. It was a post-mythological era where all the races fought for supremacy, and the descendants of the gods and devils appeared. That era was too far away. Only the most ancient records of the 10,000 races in the untainted land had records of that era. As for the chaotic era, that was even more distant. The great desolate continent shattered into pieces. Even the smallest piece was half the size of the Kunlun continent. The billions of pieces formed countless worlds of various sizes. Thousands of worlds formed the epoch era that followed. The epoch era had risen and fallen for many epochs. After the immortal epoch came the current martial epoch. With the birth of the new epoch, the lands of the old epoch would be excluded from the new epoch, becoming abandoned lands. 3 days later, Xiaoqin finally finished reading the book of the epochs. Xiaoqin let out a long sigh. The Kunlun realm was just a drop in the ocean of this entire world. The outside world was much larger than Xiaoqin had imagined, somewhat surpassing his expectations. He now had a certain understanding of the current martial epoch. After the veritable personage realm, there was the primal core realm, the cloud sea realm, the divine vein realm, the faux god realm, and the true god realm. Before the veritable personage realm were the ordinary realm and the innate realm. In the vast sea of people, there were probably billions of people cultivating in the martial epoch. However, most people would remain in the ordinary realm their entire lives. With some talent, they would advance to the innate realm. Only after becoming a Khanate life form and passing through the 9 heavens of Khanate could one be called a perfected being. For example, Xiaoqin had broken through to the enlightened being realm in his 30s. Even in most places in the outside world, he could be considered an outstanding talent. However, the Book of the Epochs also recorded that the cultivators with the Great Desolate Aeon bloodline had mostly reached the peak of the veritable personage realm at his age. Among them, there were many with outstanding talents who broke through to the perfected being realm. His talent was not bad, but the resources in the land of exile could not be compared to those in the outside world. His years of experience and combat experience were incomparable to the geniuses in the outside world. It couldn't be said that they were truly weaker than each other. Xiaoqin thought to himself, I need to find baleful Yin energy quickly and advance to the Yin essence stage. After the Yin essence stage, there was the Yang essence stage. When the 3 essences merged to form the primal core, one could break through from the veritable personage stage to the primal core stage. In the Book of the Epochs, Xiaoqin had seen a rough star map left behind by the azure-clothed man. Roaming the starry sky without a star map was equivalent to courting death. Not only were there all sorts of astral beasts in the starry sky, but there were also many astral pirates. More importantly, if a cultivator wanted to move freely in the starry sky, they needed the strength of a primal core realm cultivator. A veritable personage would barely be able to roam the starry sky, but they would not be able to remain in the starry sky for long. The expenditure of veritable essence energy would be too much. Xiaoqin recalled the information he saw on the star map. The land of exile, the Kunlun realm, was near the profound light great realm. As for the profound light great realm, it was in the purple sun region. There were at least 1,000 existences similar to the profound light great realm in the purple sun region. Xiaoqin needed to make a trip to the profound light great realm first. Firstly, he could scout out the situation there. Secondly, he could search for or purchase some baleful Yin energy. Whoosh! With a thought, Xiaoqin used the magic energy in his sea of consciousness to drive the cycle throne to the profound light great realm. The air resistance in the starry sky was very low, allowing one to fly very fast. However, the air here was thin, and the pressure and light were extraordinary. If one was not careful, one might die. Those with lower cultivations than those who had not broken through to the veritable personage realm would not be able to survive in the starry sky. Originally, Xiaoqin would find it hard to fly for long in the starry sky. Fortunately, he had the cycle throne, which he could drive with magic energy, saving him a large amount of veritable essence energy. Chi! After flying for millions of kilometers, Xiaoqin passed by an asteroid belt, and strange sounds came from there. There are many astral beasts in the starry sky. These astral beasts are extremely hard to deal with, and some are extremely strong. This was Xiaoqian's first time roaming the starry sky, so he raised his guard. Normally, he would not pass by such complicated environments. Instead, he would go around them. However, this time, it seemed like he could not avoid them. Suddenly, several black bats flew out of the asteroid belt. They were all huge, looking like strange beasts. Due to the low air resistance in the starry sky, these huge bats moved extremely fast. Furthermore, these bats had strong auras. With one look, it was clear that they were not ordinary astral beasts. Every bat should have the strength of a veritable essence stage cultivator. Xiaoqin did not panic. He remained calm, wanting to test the combat prowess of these huge bats. Kill! Pride of the 7 divine weapons tore through the air. A saber light flashed, and a huge bat that bore the brunt of the attack got chopped in half. The saber light contained great Tao energy, making it easy to kill. Clang! Pride returned, leaving behind the corpses of several huge bats in the starry sky. Xiaoqin entered deep thought as he wrapped his fingers on the armrest of the throne. It looks like my combat prowess is completely unrivaled in the veritable essence stage. I think that not many can comprehend great Tao energy in this cultivation realm. With the support of great Tao energy, Xiaoqian's strength surpassed that of an ordinary veritable essence stage cultivator. Unfortunately, I did not run into any Ean Essence stage astral beasts, so I cannot test out my true limits. Just at this moment, something strange happened. All of a sudden, a flock of giant bats flew out of the asteroid belt. Some of them had golden patterns on their bodies. When Xiaoqun checked, he sucked in a breath of cold air. Those were at least Ean Essence stage giant bats. Furthermore, there were quite a few of them. Flee! Without even thinking, Xiaoqun suddenly stood up. The throne merged with his white robes as he quickly flew away.